welcome everybody to the Executive Perspective. As you can see, I'm here today with a friend, Joe Courtesis. Rob took the day off. He's traveling today, so safe travels to Rob. I don't know if he's going to be able to jump in on the chat, but we're here, and today we're going to memorialize the career of retired Inspector Joe Courtesis. And Joe, am I saying the last name right?
Honestly, I was impressed, man. Courtesis is the correct way to say it.
Yeah.
And I made a smirk when you said it because nobody ever says it right the first try. So
I thought so, because I remember I used to say to people, it's not Courtesis, it's Courtesis. But so just full disclosure, Joe and I got on the job together, so we've known each other for over 30 years. Never worked with each other, but have actually interacted and known each other, got promoted up through the ranks together in the job. So it's going to be a good discussion. Joe's going to go over and memorialize his career of over 27 years in the NYPD, retired as an inspector, and is now working in the private sector with still in law enforcement. He'll get into that in the end. So that being said, Joe, welcome to the show. Appreciate you coming on. Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, what made you decide to go into the career of law enforcement, and like that. I'm going to sit back.
Well, first of all, Ron, thanks a lot for inviting me on the show. And I know I had a small conversation with you yesterday. And one of the things I just want to thank you for inviting me on the show, because when I retired and left the job, I left and didn't look back. And I've been out for about 4 or 5 years right now. And I've been really separated from the NYPD and just focusing on my second career. And when you asked me to be on the show and reflect on my NYPD career, you forced me to sit down and think about it. And I kind of made a list. I chronologically, in chronological order, and man, a lot of good memories. And I appreciate you making me bring that back up in my head and bringing me back into the fold. So
we're glad to have you. Rob and I had been talking about future guests, and we discussed you, and it just happens to be that Rob is off tonight. So I just talked with him. I was like, hey, you care? I'll bring Joe on. Just makes it for an easier night for me, instead of having a special co-host or whatever. Yeah. And again, it's an easy conversation, an easy interview, because we know each other. So it makes it that much easier. But hey, this is your show, pal. Tell us about Joe, where you grew up, and what led you to this career.
So, watching the shows on the network here, and I seen you do your interview, and listening to you do your interview, and I'm like, wow, we kind of had a similar, I wouldn't say similar upbringing, but a similar kind of track record onto how and what motivated us to get onto the job. For me, I grew up in Queens, New York, in a town called Glen Oaks. Glen Oaks Village is what it was called. It's like a garden apartment complex, 4 or 5 mile square garden apartment complex, kind of really close to the Belrose, Queens Village area. Looking at a product of a New York City public school education. Broken family, 2 parents. My parents were teenage parents, so they were divorced by the time I was 4 years old, and just a very, I don't want to call it poor, but because I didn't know I was poor, but reflecting back now, there wasn't much money going around. But the interesting thing was all my friends were in the same boat. I wasn't like I was living in a neighborhood where everybody had money. We saw each other and we bonded unbelievably. And my friends became my family and my life. And it was nice. It was just a long-term relationships. I got friends that I've known since I'm 4 or 5 years old that are still my friends today. And we still communicate. I never had any calling to be on the job. That was not, like there was no parent or legacy. I'm not a blue blood.
You're like me, you're first generation.
Yeah, first generation. There was I didn't know anything about the police other than the trouble I used to. I don't want to point out, I don't want to make it like I was a bad kid and I got arrested and all of these other things, but no, I got my fair share of beer drinking summonses and, nonsense like that,
Yeah.
that really caused some, some obstacles for me when I was trying to get on the job. But, the straight out of high school, barely made it out, and started working in the construction field. I was doing some bricklaying and building chimneys. I got a job working for a pretty cool job working for a company that delivered vending goods. And I was driving a bread truck around delivering potato chips and candy to high schools.
Oh, you're working with the boys?
But it was interesting because me, I'm a small guy. And, when I was 18, 19 years old, I looked like I was 15, 16 years old. So here I am going into the back door of a high school to drop off vending goods, and they won't let me out. They think like I'm a student trying to escape. So that was kind of interesting. And then, life kind of hit me hard where I had to figure out what I was going to do with life. And there weren't very many options. I didn't want to be delivering candy to schools, and I wanted to I wanted to be a better person is really what it was. And I, nothing against my friends, but my friends were a rough group that didn't all go in the right directions. And I just did not want to follow that path. And in 1988, kind of two really special things happened. One of them was I met my wife, the woman I'm married to right now. And the other was I took the NYPD exam. So I'm off that exam. I'm off the 1988 exam, 8150, I think that exam number was. So, when I met my wife, I walked into the house and I never seen a house like that before. She had a nuclear family, father right off the boat from Italy. The parent, there's no English spoken in the house. And I wanted that. I wanted that type of family structure. I wanted to have that kind of person in my life. And then I got on the job. And after a whole lot of difficulty getting on, because those summonses meant a big deal. Even the fact that I had tattoos was a big. I had to write reports why I have a tattoo. It wasn't as easy to get on the job right now.
No,
back then than it is now.
That is the truth. People don't realize that when we were getting on, our class started out over 3,000. We graduated 2,800 people in the academy. We would have been the 5th largest department in the world, just our class alone.
Crazy.
So yeah, they broke our chops. I almost didn't get on for moving summonses.
Yeah. So
you got your first shout out, by the way. Your first shout out, Madison Keenan. Hey Joe, absolute great boss and gentleman.
Thanks, Madison, man. Great to comment, man. Really appreciate it. It means a lot to me. So get into the police academy, and I'm gonna be honest with you, Ron. I wasn't gonna fuck it up. Like there was no way I was not. For me, I was terrified. For some strange reason, throughout the entire academy, I was terrified I was gonna get fired. I needed this. I needed this job. I needed that structure. And the NYPD provided it. I'm going to be quite honest with you. I had no structure in life. I had no supervision. Throughout my entire life, I had no supervision. So I was on a course to go in the complete wrong direction. And then it wasn't that I lacked integrity. I did not lack integrity. I just needed structure and some sort of supervision. And the job provided that for me. I wound up doing very academically well in the academy, which surprised me because I didn't know what my capabilities were. I never put any effort whatsoever in school. So coming out of the academy and with the gold bar and all of those things, that was a big deal to me to get that top 10% and graduate. Wind up going to the next greatest thing that ever happened to me in my life. I had no hook. There was no like, hey, where do you want to go, kid? There was none of that crap. It was like you throw your name in the lottery and you land where you land.
And then when they give you your assignment, you have no idea where you're going. You run down outside the cafeteria and look on the map. Where is this precinct?
Exactly.
In the old academy, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I
Tommy
wind
Joyce,
up, you know,
shouting me out now too.
hey, what's up, Tommy Joyce? I'm going to throw you some love later on in this presentation, in this conversation. Tommy Joyce was a big influence to me when I left the job. So thanks for jumping on.
He says, I don't know if you can see it. Hey, evening, Lowell. Hey, Joe, to be honest, I expected a flashier background, Joe. You were the best dressed at the National RTCC Association Conference in Atlanta. So just so people know, you're actually out doing work and you're in a hotel in Houston.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that, Tom. I'm actually out in Houston. I'm doing a project right now with the Houston PD. We're going to get into this. I'd like to discuss that with you all.
I'm getting yelled at too by Joe Rogan to turn on my on-air light. So
very nice. So I wind up finding out that I'm going to this precinct called the 83rd Precinct in Bushwick, Brooklyn. And this is when the 83rd Precinct was the 83rd Precinct. It wasn't this gentrified community that it is right now. This is during, I wouldn't even call it the crack epidemic. This is during the heroin epidemic. Yeah. And there were junkies everywhere, and wound up, probably a lot of the callers on here won't believe this, but 80 of us from the academy went to the 83 Precinct. Can you imagine your command getting 80 cops in one shot?
We got 150 in the 7-0.
You did. Wow. You got more than that. Wow. Incredible. But we got 80 of us went to this
I'm sorry. No, we got 50. Yeah. 50, not 150, 50. Yeah. And then we got 50 in the next class and 50 in the class after that. So we had 150 in a year and a half span. So yeah.
Yeah, we wound up getting 50 in the next class as well. So, but 80 of us went out of the class you and I, Ron, graduated from. And it was incredible right away, man. We all became tight friends. There was a project going on in the 83rd Precinct called Clean Streets. So they put us on a foot post everywhere throughout this small little section of like Sector Iter in that community. And I remember my first day. Here I am. I walk out. I think, yeah, I'm from Queens. I grew up in the city. I'm not these Long Island guys. This is what I'm thinking in my head. But I got to be honest with you, I got a little culture shock that first day. This was not the same community that I grew up in. I didn't understand it. A lot of foreign language being spoken on the street as the first language, as their home language. So I had to get used to that, and I did pretty quickly. But I remember they put us on a foot post, and I'm going to mention this, and I'm going to circle back at the end. They put us on a foot post on the corner of Troutman and Knickerbocker. And I'm standing out there, and I'm on one corner. They have a cop on another corner, another cop on another corner, another cop on the other corner. 4 of us to this one corner of the intersection. And I remember going to the boss. I'm like, what are we doing? And he's like, well, you guys are going to stand on this foot post, and if anybody does anything wrong, you're supposed to be the police. He was being facetious with us, I'm like, serious? I mean, we're just going to hang out on the corner here all day? He says, yeah. And I said exactly this to the sergeant. I go, dude, just put a beer in my hand, and this is going to be like hanging out in the neighborhood. And that was my mentality that I took with it. And it was just kind of like hanging out with a group of guys. And then we were just so proactive, man. We were doing car stops and just trying to be active in the command. So it was really nice. Now, very shortly thereafter, we get a new precinct CO that comes in, and this is something that just really changed my life. The old CO, his name was, I think, Fernandez. He was a very scary figure. He walked in the room and everybody scattered like cockroaches. They were just terrified of him. He leaves, and a new CO comes in by the name of Joe Esposito. And you heard of him?
I heard of him.
Yeah, he comes in and he takes over the 83rd Precinct, and it was like the Messiah was coming. I mean, that's the aura that he had even back then, Ron. Like before he even walked in the door, it's like, you're getting Joe Esposito. And Joe Esposito comes into the muster room and he addresses us. And I never forget this. And he basically says to the whole, and we're fresh rookies in the command, most of us. And he says, hey, listen, I want to let you guys know that I'm approachable. I have this open door. He goes, but more importantly, I want to let you know that you're cops. We're not report takers here. You have a burglary. You don't just take the report and bring it in. You investigate a little bit, knock on a few doors, find out what's going on. He goes, anybody you speak to, try to cultivate as much information, try to secure confidential informants, get search warrants. And he starts going down this road like nobody knew what the frig he was talking about. Cultivate search warrants. I mean, cultivate confidential informants, get search warrants. The frig you talking about? That sounded like narcotics work. So me and my partner, and I had a rookie partner. We just started looking at each other like, fuck it, we can do this. So we start on our foot post. We started putting together like little SNU operations, totally unauthorized. We're hiding out in
just for the non-NYPD audience. SNU is the Street Narcotics Enforcement Unit. Used to be precinct level teams like anti-crime that would go out and do street level narcotics in the precinct. So.
Yeah. And we, so we're these like little observation posts. You're hiding typically in a SNU operation. You're in an undercover van with a telescope on the top, looking around, something like that. We didn't have that equipment. We found a corner in the 83rd precinct called Elder Knickerbocker that was pushing some heavy heroin off of that corner. And we found like a daycare center that was about a half a block away. And on the third floor of the daycare center, we were hanging out, me and my partner, Greg Masitis, looking out the window in full uniform with a pair of binoculars, with little kids climbing on our friggin' backs. Like we were literally inside the daycare. And when we would see a drug deal go on, we would call one of the other 8-3 rookies and we'd be like, hey, go grab that white guy. And I'm going to say it was a white guy because there's always a white guy from Long Island buying drugs there. Go grab the white guy who just bought drugs. And then we were just trying to figure out where the stash was. So we wound up taking down some pretty good drug rings there, and it got interested. And then we started getting information out of them. And next thing you know, we have confidential informants. Next thing you know, we're swearing out a search warrant. And we have less than 2 years on the job, Ron.
Yeah.
And so Greg and I swear out this one search warrant that we cultivated a CI by doing a burglary canvas, just asking the guy if he knew who burglarized the house next door. And next thing you know, he's telling us about a house on the block that's selling guns. We brought him down to the DA's office, swore him in, got a search warrant. And the day before, this is where I made my decision where I wanted to go in the career. That's why I'm going here. The day before the search warrant, it's about to happen. We plan on having a TAC meeting at 5:30 in the morning, and we're going to go kick this guy's door down. Greg and I get there, and ESU is there. Aviation is there. The borough chief is there. There are hundreds of people, and Greg and I have to address all. Dude, Ron, I was shitting my pants. I've never been this scared and intimidated in my life because I'm thinking to myself, holy shit, what if we kick this door down and nothing's inside this location? I'm getting a pit in my stomach just telling you the story. And winds up happening. I'm sitting there, we're waiting. It's the TAC meeting is just about to stop, and Mike Quinn comes. I don't know if you remember the late, great Mike Quinn. He comes into the muster room and he says, hey, Joe, the CO, Joe and Greg, the CO wants to see you in his office. And I go into Espo's office, and I've never been in there before. And I see all of these plaques and awards and, you know, like the achievements. And immediately I am impressed. And
for those who don't know, and anybody on here that's law enforcement knows Joe Esposito. And Joe Esposito, another man, not big in stature, but a giant. In policing, heart of gold, looked out for his members, was the police, was real, would speak to you real, and rose to be the I want to say probably the last. Well, he was the longest running chief of department, the highest uniform member of the service, revered by all. And, you know, all the nonsense that you've seen in the last few administrations just never happened when he was around.
Yeah.
And you were fortunate enough to catch him when, what was he? He was probably a DI back then.
He was a full bird.
Full bird?
He came to the A3 as a full bird.
So,
And
it was a phenomenal,
no,
phenomenal guy.
and I thank you for putting his photo up because huge mentor in my life. Miss him terribly. Just a great man. And when you say huge, you know, tremendous man, you know, they say that you can teach leadership. Not at that level. Some people are just born with it. My entire life, I wanted to emulate him or be like him, and or to some degree, I just didn't have that. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't, you know, maybe I did well here or there, but that's it. This man could have marched me off of a bridge, and I would have been like, all right, it must be the right thing to do. As simple as that. So he calls us in the office. I go in, we're totally impressed. I'm totally impressed. And he said to me, he goes, Greg, Joe, he goes, listen, I want to tell you guys something. If we go to that house, kick the door down, and there's nothing inside there, I still think you did a great job. He goes, you guys know more on this job with 2 years than I knew at 12. He goes, you keep up this good work, you're going to be superstars on this job. Because now let's get out there and fucking do this. Dude, man, it felt like the fucking world came off my shoulders. And I walked out. The second I walked out, I turned over to Greg. And I said, dude, I'm taking the sergeant's exam, bro. That's it. I said it right then and there walking out. I'm taking this up. Because we were debating whether we should do it. And at that moment right there, I wanted to go in that direction. I wanted to be a leader like him. And that, you know, that was just kind of what sparked me at that moment. So fast forward a little bit. Obviously, you know, I took the sergeant's exam. I did well. But prior to that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Prior to that, we probably wondered, was the search warrant a success? You know, yes, the search warrant was a success. There you go. That wasn't the one though. Okay. But yes, that first search warrant was a success. But that led to us cultivating more and more confidential informants. And the next thing you know, within the next 6 months, we probably signed up like 4 or 5 different CIs and executed close to 10 search warrants. This is a good search warrant right here. This one was on Dodworth Street in Brooklyn. I think we got 6 or 7 guns out of this one, closed out. A couple of robbery patterns. Yeah. That's Mike Quinn, I think, to my left. And that's Greg Messitis standing directly next to me. He was a pretty boy. Still is.
Was Mike the SOL?
Mike was the SOL. So, dude, I'm telling you, in this photo right here, I'm a 2-year rookie. I'm not in anti-crime. We're just never on a foot post because we're always just swearing out search warrants. And so Esposito decides he's going to he wants to give us an award at this new thing called CompStat that just came out. So and it was brand new. He's like, listen, I'm bringing you to a meeting downtown. I want to give you an award in front of the commissioner. And we're like, all right, cool. And we had no idea what CompStat, like this is 1995. This is June of 1995. Brings us down there. And a lot of things happened at that CompStat, but I'm going to leave it out. He announces what we did. He talks about all of the search warrants we did and the guns we have taken off the street. And Bill Bratton, and we get a standing ovation. It was pretty cool, man. It was a great feeling. And Bill Bratton turns around and goes, Joe, to Espo. He goes, Joe, these guys are great, man. Like, what are you going to do for them? And this is the first time in my life I ever saw Joe Esposito not know what to say. Like, he was like, you know, he's like, meanwhile, this is what he was doing. He was giving us the award.
Yeah.
And Joe Esposito turned around. I don't know. I was thinking maybe they would, they work pretty well in warrants. And Bratton turns around and goes, Joe, these aren't warrant cops. He goes, these are anti-crime cops. He goes, I'll call you tomorrow to make sure it's done. And that's how me and my partner got into anti-crime. So needless to say, the fucking command went into an uproar. Like, these 2 rookie kids are an anti-crime. You know, everybody thought we were related to Espo. It wasn't the case. We just took advantage of the opportunity and then made it into anti-crime. That being said, a few years later, A3 is a big influence on my life. A few years later, Espo leaves and Tommy Dale comes in as the precinct CO. Tommy Dale, again, walks into the anti-crime team. And this is how I was very lucky in the beginning of my career. He walks into the anti-crime room, and me and Greg are the rookies in the team. Everybody else has been in there for quite some time. And he says, hey, listen, this is what I want to do. I want to put one of you guys in the detective squad every for 6 months and then rotate it out. I want you all to get detective squad experience. And he walks out, and I thought this is the greatest thing I ever heard. But I was like, damn, me and Greg are going to be the last ones. It's going to be 2 years before we get to go. And when he walks out, everybody in the room is like, fuck that, I ain't going. All of these cynical cops, I ain't doing that bullshit. They're going to make us do investigative time. You know how cynic cops are.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, quietly, I'm like, dude, I'll go first. If ain't nobody want to go. You know, that's how I was saying. So, boom. I go into the 8-3 detective squad it was supposed to be for a 6-month period. I'm there for a couple of months, and I wound up solving a pretty big church burglary case. The CO loved me and kept me, and I stayed there for 2 years until I got promoted to sergeant. So it was that's where, Ron, I was working with Mike O'Keefe. Mike O'Keefe wasn't my partner, and those of you who don't know Mike O'Keefe, I think Tommy Joyce. I know Tommy Joyce had him on as a guest. Mike O'Keefe's a bit of an NYPD legend. He's got a few books out. I'm not promoting it. I'm sure they're great books. He's kind of instrumental in the Washington Heights riots back in the day. With the Kiko Garcia event. So the reason why I'm bringing this up is because everywhere Mike went, problems happened. So, and I say that, like, if Mike said to me, hey, Joe, let's go to 7-Eleven and get coffee, dude, I'd put my vest on before I would go. I'm like, all right, Mike, let's go.
We were actually supposed to have him on the show. Rob wanted to have him on. It was in the beginning. We were still feeling out the show, and I thought we should only have executives on, which was a bad choice. So we kind of missed out because then Tommy and Pete had him on their show. It was interesting stories that he had to tell. Yeah, and I'm sure, and those were the ones he could talk about on.
I'm going to give you one Mike O'Keefe story, all right? Because it's just friggin' bone. It's just funny. The orders come down, Ron. We're getting promoted to sergeant. You're on that order. I'm on that order. We just Ron said we went up the ranks together. We literally went up the ranks together. We got promoted to every single rank together. We were just on that, that test run. So the sergeant list comes down. I'm getting promoted to sergeant, and I don't remember what date it was, but we got the orders like 2 days earlier. And in my mind, I'm shutting down. I'm not doing any more work. I don't need to get myself in any trouble. And of course, Mike O'Keefe pops in, and him and I are the only ones in the office. And he says, hey, Joe, what are you doing? He goes, take a ride with me. I got to go pick up a perp on a shooting. And I'm like, yeah, Mike, nah, bro. I ain't going. I was like, nah, bro, I ain't going. And he's like, no, come on, man. He's like, what's the matter with you? I said, nah, Mike, I'm getting promoted in 2 days, man. I don't need any Mike drama. So he goes, and he starts calling me, you're pussy, you're this, you're that. He goes, dude, the perp is at the Department of Parole. He's handcuffed to a chair. We just got to go drive there, switch fucking handcuffs, and bring him back. And I'm like, oh, all right. Like, what possibly can go wrong with this case, So we drive out there, and like he said, the perp's right there. He's handcuffed to the chair, and I walk over and I put my handcuffs on him. We're in a unmarked car at the time. They didn't have those petitions back in the day. And I'm playing it by the rules, bro. I'm sitting in the back seat with the perp. Mike's driving, and we're driving back to the command, and we're almost back at the command. We're on Menahan and Wilson, and if you know that area, it's literally 1 block away from the command. And we're at a traffic light, and we're sitting at the traffic light, and some dude comes running from our right to our left in front of the car with a pocketbook over his shoulder. All right. So I watch him run, and then Mike looks over at me in the back seat. He goes, you're not going to go get that guy? And I go, hold on, Mike. I go, let me see if anybody's chasing him. Like, he's running from something. Let me see who's chasing him. So all of a sudden I see some female come running down the street, and he goes, you're going to get him now? I says, wait a second. I says, I want to ask her what the hell happened. So she comes over to the car. I'm like, hey, what happened? 8-3 precinct, what happened? She goes, that guy running right there, grabbed my son's penis. This is what she says to me. And I go, how old's your son? She goes, 12 years old. I go, I got him. And then I get out of it. I get out of the car, dude, I'm in like crazy good shape. I'm 28 years old. And, you know, and this is like the prime of my shape. I'm running to go get this guy. This guy's running about 10 miles an hour and I'm running about 50 miles an hour. Like that's how fast I'm catching up to him. And I see it. So my mind is starting to think, how am I going to take him down? What do I got to do here? I'm yelling from the stop. He's not stopping. So in my mind, I'm like, I'll just two-hand push him and make him lose his balance, fall down and whatever. But I'm coming at such a great speed. When I two-hand push him, I launch this dude. Like, he just goes airborne, road rash all over his face. He's got it almost looked like a compound fracture to his friggin' arm. So I immediately throw him in cuffs and I throw him in the back seat next to the other perp because Mike's following me with the car. And the lady finally catches up to the car. I'm like, all right, well, what happened? And she's like, well, 8 years ago, he grabbed my son. Dude, you can't make this shit up. He goes, 8 years ago, he grabbed my son's penis. And I'm like, okay. I said, did you have him arrested? She goes, yeah, he was arrested for it. And I go, well, what did he do today? She goes, oh, nothing. I just saw him by my house and I haven't seen him in a while. I go, do you have an order of protection against him? She goes, no, I just didn't want him around. And I'm like, you know what I'm saying? But that's my Mike O'Keefe story. I'm sorry, I had to tell it. So, moving on, somebody wrote, what a shit show. And it was a shit show. And the guy came into the precinct the next day in like a full body cast, trying to make a complaint. So that was, it just seemed like everything was trying to jump in my way from that promotion. But Espo calls me in to, at this point, Espo is already the borough chief. He's a 2-star chief of SATCOM. So I get a phone call. Espo wants to see you. And I go into his office and he says, hey, I see the orders came down. You're getting promoted. He goes, congratulations. He says to me, where you want to go? Ron, now I got a hook. You know what I'm saying? All of a sudden, you think about it. You came on the job. I didn't know anybody. And I'm like, holy shit, man.
I say it often. I quote Joe Fox. It's not, everybody thinks about hooks and everything else. It's not always who you know. It's who knows you. And Joe Espo got to know you because of your work ethic. And that's what I talk about with people that try to still, say that you can't do anything on this job unless you have a hook, but you can create your own.
Somebody over here just said, I think we were in the same academy class. I was in 9313.
You didn't have a hook, but you were in the A squad. You were still in the hook squad.
Yeah.
So, I was in the B squad.
I don't know how I got there, but that's where I was.
I was B squad. I was 9336. Yeah.
So Espo says to me, where you want to go? And this is exactly how the conversation went. I said, hey, Chief, wow, thank you very much. I wasn't going to ask you for any favors. I'm not built that way. And I said, well, thank you very much. I said, I'll be honest with you, man. I grew up in Queens and I live in Queens. I says, I'd like to go somewhere in Queens. And he goes, how about PSA 3? And I go, how about Queens, bro? It's exactly how the conversation went. I go, how about Queens?
For those who don't know, PSA 3 is
he goes, Joe, he goes,
well, by the A3.
He goes, I think you'll do really well in PSA 3. And I go, Chief, he goes, what, Joe? You got a question? I go, how about PSA 3? He's like, good choice. So I said I got a hook, but my hook, I didn't really have a hook. He was just putting me where he wanted me to go. And I didn't get to exercise. It is what it is. But you know what? I felt like I owed that guy that loyalty and he had it. And I went to PSA 3 and I was miserable there. Different work ethic, different, I didn't realize all precincts aren't the same. The A3 precinct, I look at the A3 precinct in a way that if you were a hard worker in the 83rd precinct, you were respected. People are like, hey, that guy's a good guy, bro. He works hard. And that was the way people looked at each other. And that just wasn't the same vibe, the same culture in PSA 3 at that time. Maybe it's changed and I'm not knocking it. It just was different.
Buddy's given his name. You remember Frank Buscemi?
Yeah, absolutely, man. What's up, brother? So I I go to PSA 3 and pretty quickly I get recruited to handle this unit called MTU. Who was it? Judy McGinn? You remember Judy McGinn?
I do.
She was the housing borough commander at the time. I think she was a full bird. Somebody, I guess maybe Espo told her, somebody, whatever it is, she comes up to me and says, "Hey, I heard good things about you. I'd like you to take over a unit." I'm there for like 2 weeks. And she's like, "This unit called MTU." It was like the mobile tactical unit. And I go, "All right, well, tell me about it." And she's like, "Well, the unit is one sergeant and 8 police officers, and all 8 police officers were kicked out of their PSA commands for low activity. And I want you to get," I swear to God, I had a conversation, because I want you to get 2 C summonses. No, I want you to get 30 C summonses and 2 collars out of each of them. And I'm like, "Inspector, with all due respect," I go, "I don't think I can get that out of the best cops here. Like, I don't know, not to be negative, but they didn't give me much of a choice. I went into that unit, and you know what, dude, I got 2 C summonses. And 30 C summonses and 2 collars out of everybody, because I just employed the work ethic of, we were doing SNU ops. It was easy to do, quite honestly, but it was a lot of work, though, especially when you had some people that just weren't really buying into that. What happens? You and we did well on the lieutenant's exam. So in the meantime, while I'm there, I'm taking.
We got promoted 6 months later was the next test. Each time.
Yeah, it was crazy. I just kept studying, and it just all fell right for us. I did well on the lieutenant's exam, and I did really well. That was probably the exam I did the best on. And, I probably could have been in the first class if I had my time and rank. What winds up happening is I wind up coming into work one day, and this is another life-changing moment for me. I come into work, and I'm signing in, and as soon as I get in, they say, "Hey, you've just been transferred." And I'm like, "I've been transferred? What the hell are you talking about?" And I find that I'm going to the chief of personnel's office. And I'm like, "The chief of personnel? Like, what the frig?" And I'm like, "All right." And then I said, "Well, then I'm going home, man." And I grab my shit out of my locker. I go home, and I got to report there like the next day. I go home. I tell my wife, "Hey, I just got transferred." And my wife's like, "Hold on, I got to go to the bathroom." My wife says to me, she comes back out and she goes, "Honey, my water just broke." So she was 8.5 months pregnant. And she's like, "My water just broke." And I'm like, "Holy shit." Now I'm rushing my wife off to the hospital to have my first child. I get to we get to the hospital. She has the baby, and my StarTAC cell phone rings. You know what I'm saying? Because that's the cell phone I had at the time. I answer the phone, and it's my real estate agent. It says, "Yeah, the bid you had for that house just got accepted." So I got my first house, got transferred, and had my first kid on the same day. So my entire life just, and I didn't even know what I was getting transferred to.
Did you show up the next day?
No. I just called him and said, "My wife just went into labor." I didn't even know who to call, but I figured it out. And, but this is kind of an important story to tell, because I wound up going into the chief of personnel's office, and they had me supervising a unit called the Suspended Modified Review Board. And it's kind of where they were putting people who were like in limbo to get promoted. And dude, I'm an active cop. This is not for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is for somebody who does not want to work. And I was not happy with this, and I was not happy with, with what I was doing, but whatever. But I learned a lot on the job. So I don't know if you know this, but there is or was at the time, there's about 200 or so people that are on modified assignment at a time, or more, 200 to 250 people. And then every 30 days, there's a meeting to discuss 50 of them, to discuss the status of 50 of them. So like, should we keep them modified? Should we remove them from modified? So my job was to kind of set up who gets to be reviewed by the chief of personnel. And I'm basically just like reading out the names. Ronnie Layson. Yeah, Ronnie Layson. And then the investigations, what is it? The Patrol Bureau Investigations units. The Patrol Bureau Investigation Unit captains from all of the boroughs are there to answer for whatever cases they're representing. So we would just go through that. And I bring this up just to give you a little how unfair this job is. If you're on modified assignment within that 250 people, even if you deserve to be off, it could take 6 to 7 months before they're even hearing your name to discuss it. and you probably shouldn't have been on there in the first place. So it's, I don't know if that's changed or not, but I always found that quite problematic. And the reason why I bring this up is because that's where I met Al Becker. I don't know if you're familiar with Al Becker. Al Becker was the Patrol Borough Queens South captain in charge of their investigations unit. And Al Becker was a co-owner of the Fast Track.
Yeah.
So Al Becker saw, some reason he took a liking to me, and he saw while I was there, I was taking advantage. Here I am, a sergeant, waiting to get promoted to lieutenant, studying for the captain's exam.
Captain, yep.
You know what I'm saying? Because it was coming out right after that. So I was just going to study away while I had that opportunity. He saw that, and he started giving me material from the Fast Track to review. He's like, hey, if you want, like, I'll give you free material if you could just review it for us and it helps you study. And I'm like, yeah, sure. What the hell? So this guy would always just drop this stuff off at me. And then, we got promoted right after, 9/11 hits. I'm working downtown. If you don't mind, I prefer to kind of skip over that moment of my life right there. That's
fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Because, that was a horrific incident that changes you as a person. And we all experienced it. My experience was probably no worse than yours. But it was horrible. And we were downtown, and still to today, my fucking lungs are all fucked up. I don't know what the hell. Dude, I can walk up. I'm still pretty athletic. I can run 10 miles, but I can't walk up a fucking flight of stairs, without holding on to a pole or something. So it's pretty crazy. My doctor can't figure it out, but whatever. So 9/11 hits. Right after that, you and I, like the first class, what was that November class after 9/11?
My first BMOC, that was my first 2-day swing, was going into BMOC. I hadn't had 2 days off since September 11th. We had no days off for quite a while, and then we were getting 1 day off a week. Going into BMOC was my first 2-day RDO set.
And you remember when we were in BMOC?
Day one.
Yeah. How crazy was that? So what Ron is referring to, we're first day in BMOC, and a plane goes down in the Rockaways. And we're just like, man, it was almost like PTSD, man. We were all sitting there, and our hearts just sank into our stomachs. And I never remember that feeling of dread. Yeah.
We sat there. They just rolled the TV in, and we just watched the TV the whole day, because they couldn't mobilize us. They had 28 lieutenants sitting there, and they couldn't mobilize us because we didn't have uniforms, because we were BMOC in business attire at the time, and we didn't have uniforms. So we sat there in the classroom watching the TV all day, saying, holy shit, they blew a plane out of the sky, which wound up not supposedly being the truth, but still, it's fucking 2 months later. In our minds, they just blew a plane out of the sky and it fell into the ground. Yeah, that was not a good day.
No. So obviously we made it through BMOC, and now it was time to pick our commands. And guess who I didn't call?
You didn't want to go back to PSA 2?
I didn't want to go. Yeah, I didn't call Esmo.
I
don't think he got upset about it. I mean, if he's the type of guy that will reach out to you if he needs you someplace. And I happened to be working for the chief of patrol at the time. And forgive me, man, I can't even remember who the chief of patrol was.
Chief personnel.
Chief of personnel. I mean, yeah, I can't even remember who the chief of personnel was at the time, because I didn't work directly for him or her. I think it was him. But I remember George Anderson was there at the time. I don't know if you know George. He was there at the time. But I wound up going through that source, and that was a pretty good source to go where you want to go. And I said, hey, can you just send me anywhere in Queens South? I grew up in Queens South, and now I found my way into Queens South, and they wound up transferring me to the precinct I grew up in, the 105 precinct, which was really awkward for me because my mother lived right down the block. Still, in the Belrose area, which is just weird to have her that close. But I go there, and I'm there for a really short period of time until I get transferred unsolicited again from the 105th precinct straight to Patrol Borough, Queens South. Al Becker. You know what I'm saying? Al Becker says, I want to pick this guy up. He's coming. Now all of a sudden I'm labeled like this, somebody who's good for the investigations unit. And man, I was not happy about that. I never wanted to be labeled into working for investigations. That's not who I am. How did I get out of doing search warrants and being an active cop to this? Like, what went wrong in my career is what I'm thinking. Believe it or not, I go to the Queens South Investigations Unit, and everybody in that unit was stand-up dude, man. An absolute stand-up dude. I felt like we did more good than I could have possibly imagined. I wound up learning so much about department-involved shootings. I think I investigated or assisted in the investigation of over 50 department-involved shootings, all of which we those cops were exonerated of any wrongdoing.
Yeah, we just actually, Rob and I did a show on that last week.
Yeah. And then when I wanted to get promoted to captain, they wanted making me a shooting team leader because I had so much experience in that. But the investigations unit was not nearly as bad as I thought it was. It was a good group of guys, and I always felt that every day we were out there, we were trying to look. The way I saw it is, if I'm getting called to the scene, you're already jammed up, bro. I have nothing to friggin' do with this. You smacked your wife, or you got arrested by Suffolk County, dude. I'm just doing the paperwork, bro. Or some order of protection came in to take your guns away. Something like that happened. I'm coming in there and giving you advice, dude. Don't do this. Make sure. Don't go to. I'm just trying to keep them out of additional trouble.
Yeah.
I felt like we were trying to do the right thing, and quite honestly, it wasn't nearly as bad as I thought. But while I was there, and the reason why I'm even bringing this portion of my career up, because it plays into how everything else happened. Al Becker was one of the owners of the Fast Track. So Al Becker, now I'm there, and I had already studied for captain. I took the test. I did well. So it's already moving on. I'm just staying there, biding time until my captain's number comes up. So Al Becker asked me if I want to teach for the Fast Track. I said, what the hell? At nighttime, I'll do a little side hustle, make some money, put some off-duty employment in. I started teaching for the Fast Track, and that's where I meet Phil Banks. This is my, if anybody wanted to know how does Joe know Phil Banks? I meet Phil Banks because he's a co-owner of that Fast Track. So very, very little interaction with him. It was more, there was always two people doing a course. They had a backup, and I was a backup for a guy named Mike Yanisic. And then an owner. It had to always be a backup and an owner doing. So it was never me and Mike Yanisic, because I was always his backup. So it was either me and Al Becker, me and Phil Banks, or me and this guy Steve Zolder that would do but we were never teaching together. We would just cross paths as we came and went. So that's where I met Phil. And that's how I knew him. I knew him as Phil, some guy who was a DI, CO of the 81 precinct at the time. That's it. Never thought nothing of it. He might stick around and listen to my talk for a little bit, and he would sneak out the back door anyhow. Everybody else used to stay to make sure the backup guy was doing it. Phil just kind of did his thing and left. Never exchanged phone numbers, anything like that. After that, I wind up getting, and I don't think anything else of it. I wind up getting promoted to captain, and I end up as the executive officer of the, nice, man. See that, man? Great photo, my two girls. So
your three girls, come on.
Yeah. Well, you got, the great thing about having daughters is they're everything you love about your wife. They're the good that your wife has brought out, and none of the negative that you may not like. Until they get bigger.
Yeah.
And then they drive you nuts. You see these girls right now. One of them is the one standing is 26 years old, and the one being held right now is 23 years old. That's how much time flies, man, huh?
Yeah.
So thanks for putting that up. I wound up going to the 106 precinct, and I'm pretty happy now because I'm back on patrol. And the 106, man, what a good command. What a like, I'm back in the 83rd precinct. In fact, it's almost like the 83 annex. Almost half the people, not half, a good majority of the people I worked with in the 83rd precinct are somehow either supervisors or there's the girls bigger. We're hanging out in Montana. Believe it or not, I got a place out over there, and so I posted this photo on social media. You're distracting me here with this, but and I get a comment in social media. It says, "It looks like two cowgirls and some guy looking for a place to bury a body." So, you look at me like I'm totally not dressed for that atmosphere. So
yeah, you get promoted to captain.
Yeah, so I get promoted to captain. I go to the 106, and it's just fantastic, man. Some of the hard charging good cops that I worked with in the 83rd precinct are sergeants and lieutenants in the 106 precinct. Now I'm there as a captain XO. But Tommy Dale now is the CO of Patrol Borough Queens South. So he retains me. He remembers me from the 83. He's the one who put me in the detective squad, if you remember. So he retains me and puts me in the 105 and 106. But he said to me, he goes, "Joe, I need you to do me a favor." He goes, "I have a CO there that struggles at CompStat. And I'm going to need you to, this is an unorthodox thing for me to ask from you, but I'm going to need you to focus. Most CO XOs focus on traffic." He goes, "I'm going to kind of need you to focus on both. I need you involved in that aspect of it." And I said, "All right," and so I meet with the CO there, and that CO is more than willing to let me do all of the work. He had he's a good guy. He just had a bit of a podium stage fright, and he just didn't perform well on that stage.
That's one of the things we talk about, on this job, is that, people don't realize that we pass exams. It doesn't make you, number one, a good leader, and number two, a good public speaker, which is a big part of being an executive. Huge part. It'll make and break you in the NYPD without doubt. If you can't stand up in front of people and articulate your point, dude, you're done. There's no future for you. CompStat is the measuring stick for captains and above because we lack a better measuring stick. You know what I'm saying? No, it's 100%. They say it's the job interview when you get to go to the podium. And that's what I complained about, actually. When I was a CO at a 111, I'm like, I never get that job interview because we're always doing well in crime. It's always very small numbers. Even if I was spiking in crime, I wasn't hurting the borough. So they were going to bring up the 109, the 110, the 114, the 115, and the 111's an afterthought. They may throw a question at the seat. So I never got that job interview when I was a CO of the 111.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I got distracted by one of the comments, man. Andy, it looks like this is Andy Savino.
Is that Andy? It is Andy. I can tell by the picture.
Yeah. And Andy Savino posts, I'm in Aruba one time, and I'm at a restaurant to go use a bath, and I get up to go use the bathroom, and I almost walk into the females' room, and I turn around real quick to realize I made a mistake, and I bump face to face into Andy Savino. Like, of all places to just. So that's what he's writing on here. I never forgot that. I'm like, holy shit, what are you doing here?
Good man, Andy. Good man.
Yeah, so he wants me to cover CompStat, and now all of a sudden, look, I hate talk. I don't want to talk bad about anybody, and I try to refrain from that because there's nothing positive comes out of that. But the commander who had the 106 precinct prior to the one who is a current CO got jammed up. Great guy, but got jammed up, accused of fudging the numbers, winded up getting demoted. And I'm going to say God rest his soul.
Many years later.
Yeah, and God rest his soul. I know he passed away recently, and he was a really, really good man. And I'm not at all. I don't know if those allegations are true or not or whatever. That's not from me. But whatever happened with those numbers made it impossible for us to win that year. You know what I'm saying? So there was no winning.
Just so the audience understands, again, we're not going to mention people's names you don't want to speak in a negative light, but
No.
the allegation was that he was altering numbers outside of the CompStat period. So like you said, it was making it impossible in the future to beat those lower numbers that were manipulated.
And whatever it was, look, maybe I'm making excuses for failing to keep the numbers down. So whatever it is, we couldn't, you know what I'm saying? We couldn't.
I don't think that was the case.
Whatever.
I think it was a pretty solid allegation.
All right. But we had, it was pretty bad.
Yeah.
This crime increase we had this year. And what wound up happening is we were at CompStat at least once a month, whether it was Spike Stat, CompStat, grand larceny stat, whatever it was, we found our way in at that podium. So here I am, a rookie captain XO, and I'm at CompStat, traffic stat, CompStat, traffic stat, and I'm the one presenting. It's freaking crazy.
Yeah, that's weird.
So no, that's why I told you the other day, dude, I feel like I have the most podium time on the planet. I really do. So here I am, but you know, I learned. You know, you learn how to get comfortable up there. In the beginning, you're just absolutely terrified, and you get a little bit more comfortable. You learn how to put your book together, and you move forward. Then, you know, after that, I get transferred. You know, I feel like I did my job. I did a good job. I'm at the 106 precinct for like 3 years as the XO. You know, it was a long time, and the two commands open up. The 113 and the 101 precinct open up. So I'm like, maybe I'll get one of these. You know, I don't know. I don't know how. You and I have discussed this before. Like, I knew how to get myself to captain. I had no idea how to get myself to DI. Like, there was no plan. There was no structure. There was nothing. Just, I figured if you just work hard, you'll get noticed. And
feel that way, unfortunately.
No. And what happens in the NYPD is the harder you work, the more work you get. And then they'll even give you the opportunity to train other people that they want to promote.
Yeah.
So, you know, and you know, they'll gift you with that as well.
Yep.
So I didn't know that then. I know that now, you know, but then I just keep chugging along, keep working hard. And so the two commands open up. I'm hoping I'm going to get one. I'm figuring I'll probably get the 101. The 113 is a big shop. I don't know if they're going to give me that as my first command. Shop. Yeah. You know, so Tommy Dale calls me, and I just I got so excited. Like, I know that they're filling commands, and I see the call coming in, and I'm getting this false sense of hope. And he goes, Joe. I go, hey, Chief, what's going on? He goes, I'm moving you. He goes, I'm not giving you a command. He immediately says it to me, and it just drains me a little bit. And I go, what's going on? He goes, they put in 2 fly-ins. The 101, they brought in Walter Solowski, great guy. Yeah. They bring in Walter Solowski, and in the 113, they bring in Crystal Johnson. He goes, I don't know Crystal. This is, you know, I don't want to speak for words from him, but this is what he told me. He goes, I don't know Crystal. I'm not getting good information on her, and I want a strong XO with her, and I need to send you over there. And I got to be honest with you, Ron, I was insulted. You know, like, if you don't have confidence in her, you know what I'm saying, but you have confidence in me, you're sending me there to, you know, and I was a little insulted. So I go there, and this story gets a little different because I have no ill will toward Crystal at all. I actually really like her a lot. But I go to the 113 precinct, and I start doing in the 113 precinct like I was doing in the 106. I'm taking the crime. I'm doing, dude, within 2 weeks, Crystal fucking put me in my place, bro. She came up to me, and I'm gonna be honest with you, rightfully so. It was not my business to get into that crime, you know, but I was taught the wrong way.
Right.
You know, so she, oh man, it was pretty rough, and it hit my ego a little bit too. And she kind of was like, listen, you don't touch nothing. Nothing goes on without going through me, or whatever this is. And I'm like, understood. I overstepped my boundaries. You know, I'm just kind of stepping back. I'm like, all right. And I'm like, and now I'm taking like this fucking attitude. Like, all right, dude, I'll just handle traffic, man. This is it. This will make my life easy. I'll handle traffic. And listen, I'll give her credit. And where I'm going to give her credit is she took the lumps for her mistakes, and she took the rewards for her what she succeeded in. She didn't blame it on anybody. She didn't point to anything. She wanted to be good, and God bless her. And I have no ill will toward her. Her and I are still somewhat friendly. And she was right to put me in my place at that time, in my opinion. Now here's a funny thing. I want to command. I'm bitching and moaning all over the place. I want to command, and I'm making it well known. And you remember the CRVs, bro? Were you caught up in those fucking CRVs?
I was fortunate. I wasn't. I got launched by Jaffe from PSA 2 to Queens North, and I was in the 115 when they were doing the CRVs. And they had a captain that was in the timeout box bigger than me. And he was the CRV captain. So he went every day to the CRV.
Dude, those CRVs were the most degrading assignments for a captain I've ever seen in my life.
It's terrible.
Those of you who don't know what the CRVs are, these critical response, what do they call them? Deployments. Yeah. Mass deployments that were scattered all over the place, just to kind of show a set of force by critical infrastructure throughout Lower Manhattan. So they would send like 80, 90 cops, 1 in 8 from every command, and then a captain supervising this whole shit every single day. They would send this out. So I'm getting stuck with these CRVs. Every XO is getting stuck with at least 2 to 3 CRVs a week.
Right.
A week.
Because it was day 12 and quarter 12.
I'm standing on a fucking foot post with rookie cops, bro. I'm a captain on this job. It was degrading. I got to be honest. It was absolutely freaking degrading. And this is the reason why Driscoll lost the election. Because when he was running against, my God, what's his name? God rest his soul. The CEA president who committed suicide. My God, I'm embarrassed. But when he was running for the CEA president, Driscoll, when he was running for re-election, somebody asked him, hey, what are you doing about these CRVs? And he said, what's a CRV? Boom. He lost the election right there because these captains were fed up with this crap. So I'm at a CRV.
Roy Richter,
man. How embarrassing I am.
I know.
Man. And he was a great guy, man. Absolutely great guy. And that broke my heart to see that. So I'm so bad with that. So I'm at a CRV, and inside at the CRV with me is Eric Adams. He was a captain at the time, and he's doing a CRV as well. And we're inside I never met him before, but everybody knew who Eric Adams was.
For the 7 months he was a captain.
Yeah. Everybody on the job knew who Eric Adams was before he was the mayor. And dude, if Eric Adams gets insulted by this, it's not meant to get him insulted. But the reason why everybody knew, everybody who took a promotion exam, when the list came out, you looked for 2 things. You looked at where am I on that list was the first thing you looked. And then the second thing you looked for is where is Eric Adams? Because you knew the job was not going to kill the list without promoting Eric. That's what you knew. And I'm not saying Eric was at the back of the list each time. You just wanted to be better than him. They were afraid of him at the time.
Didn't take much.
Yeah. They were afraid of him at the time. He riled a lot of things up but whatever, that's what you look for. So I knew who he was. And we had a conversation, and while I'm having a conversation with him, my phone rings, and it's Tommy Dale. And at that moment, right then and there, while I'm having a conversation with Eric Adams, I was told I got the 106 precinct to be the CO. It was pretty cool, man. It was a nice ride home that day, man. You know what I'm saying? Going back from CRV, it was just like, it's over. I felt like I've been rescued from Gilligan's Island. You know, I was just like, I was in some bizarro world where I'm standing foot post and what have you. And I went to the 106.
I've talked about this in the past too. And first of all, we're an hour and 4 minutes in, so it's nice that we finally got to a command. So we're getting through it. But we're an hour and 4 minutes in, so let's everybody, like Tommy Renane says, let's hit the like, share, and subscribe button. Let's get the algorithm going. Show some love for Joe's episode today. But yeah, I speak about it too. You know, people don't realize the emotional roller coaster that we have sometimes. I think you're the executive, you got the greatest life, it's the greatest thing. We're the, you know, they think that the cops are the only ones getting shit on and everything else, and have it tough, and have to do things that they don't want to do and everything else. I remember when I got my first command, when I got the 111, I found out from somebody calls me up and tells me, hey, congratulations. I said, on what? You're going to the 111? I said, they're putting me back in the 111? Yeah, you're the CO. I'm like, what are you talking about? We didn't even have a finance machine in the task force. I was a task force CO at the time. And I had to call up the borough to try and find out, because I didn't get a phone call from downtown. I didn't get my borough commander didn't know. Chief Pizzuti didn't know I was getting it right away. You know, didn't know I was getting it until after the fact. So yeah, I found out about it, and you know, it's those things. It's like, it's weird. They think that we're treated much better than we really are by the upper echelon. They don't realize that when you're a captain, you really are. You know, yeah, you're a white shirt. There are some perks to it, but you're a peon too. You know, you get bounced around, you get used, you get abused when you're confident.
Used and abused. They, you know, that there was no overtime, like cash overtime for captains back then.
No.
So that was the reason.
It's still not really cash overtime.
Yeah, well, that was the reason why captains were at CRVs and not lieutenants. It went from sergeant to captain. There was no lieutenants at these things. So you think that was by accident? That was, they didn't have to pay you friggin' overtime. That was to control their budget, because there was no way you couldn't do overtime on a CRV. You were just stuck doing it.
And most of the time you were fucking overseeing an RMP accident because the caravans and everybody's rear-ending each other.
No. So I'm back at the 106 precinct, and now I'm the CO, and I'm addressing community council. You know, I'm the talking figure there, and I just love the command. I love the command there as the XO. Now I'm officially the CO, even though I was like an acting CO while I was there. But I love it. You know, I spent a lot of time there. I was the XO, and now I'm the CO. Yeah, there you go. They asked me the Columbus Day Parade, Howard Beach Columbus Day Parade. Due to my Italian heritage, they had asked me to be the marshal of the parade. It's just the connection with the community, with the cops. I mean, what a dude! My union delegate was had the highest activity in the command. You know what I'm saying? Like, just to kind of
don't start talking about activity, beauty in the struggle.
Well,
in the comments.
He was just an active cop, I should say.
He's gonna jump in.
He was just an active cop, and it was yeah. I remember Eric Eulich. He was I think we used to call him the boy politician. He looked like he was 11 years old. So just a great community. I got along with everybody. In fact, my neighbor, if you ever seen the 106 precinct, it's literally a precinct in the middle of a residential block. There is zero parking.
Right. Yeah.
It is the most insane place to put a precinct that you could possibly imagine. And we're just a complete nuisance to all the neighbors. So for me, it was so important to keep those neighbors happy. You know, our immediate neighbors and what have you. So one day, and I call her, her name is Rita, Italian lady who lived directly next door to the precinct. She comes in to make a complaint about something, and she's trying to articulate herself, but she got a really thick Italian accent. And I just hear it. I recognize it. And I walk over and I speak to her in Italian, and she winds up falling in love with me because I did that. And next thing you know, she invites me over to the house for dinner with her whole family, the husband, the kids. And I just figured I'd be politely would go. And then it became something I was committed to go to every single Thursday. I had to go to Rita's for the entire tenure. I was the CO there. And if I didn't show up, she came out and was knocking on my office window. And here I am in uniform, eating at Rita's house, right next door to the precinct. There was no, this is actually my last day on the job. I went there to have dinner with her. So that was the respect that I had for her. What a great command. I wound up getting promoted to DI out of there. Extremely rewarding to me, DI Deputy Inspector. And then I was moved into the 105th precinct. Yeah, thanks, man. No, Joe was there all the time, man. Great guy. I go to the 105 precinct.
Don't forget your old SOL.
Yeah.
Chief Mike Quinn, God rest his soul.
Mike Quinn, God rest his soul, man. What a solid group of people, man. You know, great, honored to be associated to them in one way or another.
Yeah.
I go to 105 precinct, and I had a choice. And this is actually going to be some advice to some of the guys still on the job right now. I don't know how you feel. Ron, did you go to PMI?
I did.
You did, right?
I did.
So I get an opportunity to go to PMI. Yes. And I had a good group of guys. I had Kevin Catalina, Mike Kemper was in my group there, Pete de Blasio, Joe D'Adamo, Joe Kirsting. I just a good group of guys that I got along with pretty well. But I wouldn't change that. But what I would advise to everybody who's still on the job, I had a choice of potentially going to PMI or going to the FBI National Academy. And if you have aspirations for life after the job, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, yeah, you're making the wrong choice going to PMI.
Yep.
I completely regret not being part of that FBI national network. It is huge. Tony Raganella will tell you. I'm like that wannabe. Every time I go to one of their events, I'm like the only one who's not part of this, the Yellow Brick Club. I would highly recommend, if you have the opportunity to go there and you have aspirations for a future outside this job, that network is incredible. Where am I right now? Oh, so Ron, yes, you're good. This is the PMI crew.
Every year,
Jim Klein.
Every year at the when we welcomed in the new class.
Yeah, I don't know which group Jim Klein was in. He wasn't in my group, but he's in that photo with
you.
me.
Were in 22, right? Because I was in 24.
I went in 2010. I don't know.
Right, I went in 2012. You think
you went in 20? So I might have been
24. I think it's PMI 22.
Okay, yeah. I went in 2010, so 22. Yeah, you're probably right. I just haven't been to an event in so long. Now I want to go over one case that I had, because this involves your team, Ron, because I know you had that blast team, which I thought those guys were friggin' amazing, man.
Crystal's on. Just shout out to Crystal.
Hey, Crystal, how you doing, hon?
How are you? I told you this. I told you this last night when we were talking, Joe. Crystal Johnson. When I first got promoted to captain, I did my first duty captain ride along with Crystal Johnson when she was the XO of the 7-7 precinct. So Crystal was she's the one that broke me into the duties. I rode along with her for my first duty.
Crystal, I don't know if you were listening, but I told him that day you put me in my place. So,
and he said he deserved it.
I deserved it. So, but all good stuff. Much love out to everybody out here who's saying nice things. Much appreciated.
Well, yeah, Mark told us.
Man, great guy, man. Great guy. Thanks, Marky. Where was I? Oh, so blast. So this is a great story, and this is kind of segues on what I'm doing now after life. I had a burglary pattern. I can't remember how many, but we were in the high 20s, maybe even the low 30s in this residential burglary pattern that was going on in the 105 precinct, and the squad was just not getting many leads on it. And I don't know if you know Mike Granshaw, but he was a detective in the 105 precinct. Good guy. He comes into my office and he's like, "Hey, boss, listen." He goes, I think I got a lead on that burglary pattern. And I said, "What do you got?" He goes, and he's telling me some story about he was dropping his niece off somewhere, and he saw this BMW. He saw somebody get out of a BMW and start knocking on doors, and then get out and then go to another door and knock on it. And that was kind of like the pattern. So he waited for the BMW to leave. He took the license plate and he went over to the door and he knocked on the door and he said to Rez, "Hey, I'm the detective so-and-so, 83rd precinct. 105 precinct." He goes, "What did that guy want?" "Oh, he just asked for somebody that doesn't live here." I mean, just signature pattern that we were investigating. So, and this is the plate. So I was like, "Come on, sit down." I go on the computer. We start running the plate. Turns out a relative of the owner of that car was just released on parole for burglary. Like we're on the right fucking track here, So I says, "All right, let's swear this out." We go down to the DA's office. We swear out a warrant for the car, and we get a GPS tracker. I reach out to Taru. We wire this car up with a GPS tracker. The tracker goes live. Now, those of you listening to this story, I'm not making this up. I told this story at CompStat. So the tracker goes live, and I reach out to the Queen South Blast guys. I'm leaving a little bit out on the story. We wound up putting trackers on 3 cars. We found out the perp had 2 additional cars. So we want to put in trackers on 3 cars. Me and my SOL are following 1 car. My anti-crime team is following another car. And who is it? Lieutenant Radigan? Great guy.
Bobby Radigan.
Yeah, Bobby Radigan from Queens North Blast is following another car. And my car goes nowhere. And clearly they're not doing anything wrong. My anti-crimes team's clearly not doing it. They're not doing anything wrong. But Radigan reaches out to me, calls me on the cell, and he says, hey, boss. He goes, listen, he goes, these guys are definitely casing houses. There's no doubt about it. He goes, I said, all right, cool, man. I said, let me know where you're going. Calls me back again. He goes, boss, he goes, they're leaving Nassau County. They're leaving Queens and going into Nassau County. Do you mind if I follow them? And I said, no. I said, I know this pattern is extending into Nassau. So yeah, definitely follow them. He calls me back about 15 minutes later. He goes, yeah. I go, where are you? He goes, I'm on, and he names the street. I don't want to put my address out there.
Yeah.
So he goes, he names the street. And I'm like, dude, I live on that street. Where are you? He goes, well, I'm on the corner of this and that. And I'm like, dude, I live on that corner, bro. Are you fucking with me? Like, seriously, what are you talking about? And he goes, well, which house is yours? And I go, my house is the house on the hill, the tan house on the hill. I go, what are they doing? He goes, they're parking in front of your house and getting out. I'm like, holy shit. So I said, hold on 1 second. I grab my phone, my other phone. We got the 2 phones. I call my wife. And I'm like, hey, Lori, lock the back door. And she's like, why? I'm just lock the back door. And she's like, why? I'm like, just lock the fucking back door. Don't worry about it. Because I'm afraid this guy's we're going to be chasing him through the backyards. I don't need him barricading himself in my house. So he goes 2 doors down. He walks down the driveway of my neighbor's house. A few minutes later, he comes out the front door of my neighbor's house with a pillowcase of my neighbor's property. So Bobby Radigan goes, you want us to grab him? He's coming out the front door. I said, hell
and
no.
I'm sure Bobby had it on video.
I go, Bobby, hell no, you ain't grabbing him. I says, number 1, we ain't giving this collar to Nassau County. And number 2, you ain't chasing him through my fucking backyards. And number 3, we got a GPS on the car.
Yeah.
We don't normally chase here.
Let's
just follow him to a safe place.
Yeah, I've talked about this in the past. That's normally what we always did. Like we would observe them, we would get the evidence, we would leave a team behind to secure the burglar location. We usually have them on video, and we'd follow them back to Jackson Heights because they were all mostly coming out of Jackson Heights and Corona, even though they were doing them in Queens South and in Nassau County. And we would just bring them back when they felt safe and do an easy car stop on them. And that's how we normally scoop them up.
Yeah. Well, great job and just a great collar, and we closed the pattern out. But that was my aha moment when it came to GPS trackers. I realized the value of them, and I just started deploying them in many other operations that we had done, and I loved it. It was almost like that time when I learned how to cultivate a CI way back in the day. The GPS tracker became a new.
But back before, I forget what year it was. When I was in the Blast, I was the CEO of the Blast, and Bobby Radigan was the lieutenant, best in the business, without a doubt. Great people I had working for me, and we would have historical GPSs before the technology came around to really have a live GPS. I mean, now you have an air tag and it's that small and it's just magnets right on. It's amazing, the technology of today. But back in the day, we had GPS trackers like this that were historic. We'd pop them on a car, rip them off the car, and then do legwork to track and see if there was burglaries done on the blocks where they were. And then the DA's office gave us 2 live trackers that we could put on. You only needed a search warrant if you were going to hardwire it into the vehicle. And then there was a court case upstate New York that changed that said it was too intrusive, and you had to have a search warrant for any GPS tracker on a car if you're going to use it for law enforcement purposes. But it was great. So we did them. And
that's how it stands right now. And just on the air tags have a value, but in reality, these GPS trackers, see, the air tag's working off of a Bluetooth, and you can't put them on somebody's car because the air tags tell the person there's an air tag following you. So they're not made for that type of deployment.
Well, I was just saying how the
Yeah.
technology has changed to something so small as opposed to what we used to have to put on for live.
Yeah,
So,
no, exactly. I mean, but right now, I'm still involved in that heavily, and I'll get into that in a little. That's what I'm here in Houston doing right now. Working on that with that type of technology. But that being said, I wound up now, fast forward, I'm the CO of the 105 precinct now. I'm going on 6.5 years as a CO, Ron. Like, dude, this is dog years to anybody. There's nobody does more than 5 years as a CO. Like, I'm on 6.5 years, and Chief Esposito retires. It's 2013, whatever it was, 2013, yeah. 2013, March 27, 2013, Chief Esposito retires. And a new chief of department comes in, and its name is Phil Banks. And I have CompStat that week. And that's it. And you see the date on there? And I want to point that out. That's Chief S. And I hate the crazy look on my face, but I saw the date because that's my retirement date too. I retired, coincidentally, I retired the same date, but 2020. So I didn't notice that until the other day when I saw that photo. But Phil Banks becomes the chief of department, and I'm going to be the first CompStat under the new chief of department. So I don't know what to expect. I remember Phil Banks from my time at the Fast Track, which was short-lived. I just did a few, about a year or so doing that. Don't really know the guy. And I got CompStat. What dude, you want to hear how burnt out I am, bro? What day of the week was CompStat again? Thursdays. So it's I got CompStat, and it's just crazy. And I get it's Tuesday, and I get a call from Phil Banks, and it pops up on my phone, Phil Banks, because every executive's number is like in the Active Directory, but I didn't have it saved there. And I see Phil Banks is calling me. I'm like, oh shit. And I'm like, I mean, dude, he just became it's his first friggin' week. So I'm like, hey, Chief, how are you? Joe Courtesis. He goes, hey, Joe, how you doing? How you been? He goes, been a while. I said, yeah, no, it's definitely been a while. How you doing? And he starts asking me some simple questions. Hey, how long are you a CO? And I tell him, I'm in my 7th year as a CO right now. He couldn't believe it. He's like, Joe, he goes, I had 3 commands in 3 years. I was a CO for a total of 3 years.
Bang.
And he goes, that's a long friggin' time. He goes, what are you looking to do? Like, what is your vision? And I said, be honest with you, I said, I'm a little bit burnt out with this. There's a lot. I go, if you're thinking about giving me another command, please do not give me a broken command. Don't give me a command that somebody just got jammed up in and I got to fix it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to fix an explosion and get cops back on board. I said, if you wanted to give me another command and I can pick any command, I said, I'd love to dip to 7.5, or I'd love to get Midtown North and Midtown South. I want a big ass friggin' command. Like, give me something.
You were a warrior.
Just give me something.
You were a warrior, bro.
I showed that photo because I was so inappropriate all the time. This is in the 106 precinct, we conducted a search warrant. My anti-crime team did a search warrant. I'm in the house, and this is a sword that was inside the search warrant. I'm playing with this guy's toys inside there. So, but so I said, give me the 7.5 or Midtown North, Midtown South. Give me something big. And he's like, nah, Joe. He goes, you're a CO too long. You're done. And he goes, anything else? And I go, well, I hear this guy, McKeel, is retiring from Real Time Crime Center. I'm like, that's pretty cool. I'm into that stuff. I wouldn't mind jumping into that spot. And he goes, nah, fuck that. You ain't going there. And I'm like, oh, here we go. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is.
I heard this before. I'm going to PSA 3 again.
Yeah, I'm going to PSA 3. I was like, all right, here we go. So I'm thinking in my head, he goes, you know what? He goes, I'm going to call you tomorrow. He goes, let me think about this. I'm going to call you tomorrow. So he calls me on Wednesday, and he goes, listen, he goes, I got good news and I got bad news.
Just before you hit the good news, bad news, Phil Sparaccio just texted me. I think he's texting you too.
He just texted me too.
Yeah, all right.
I just saw that. I haven't heard from Phil Sparaccio in a long time, man. Good guy.
Yep.
I just saw that. I think he just said, my favorite Queens CO. CEOs, the both of us, you and I. So, but Great guy. He used to come to my game dinners. I used to host these wild game dinners in Queens. Those who like to hunt. He used to come. I think he used to come with his dad. Where was I? Where did I leave off? I'm sorry.
He's telling you, I'll call you tomorrow.
Oh yeah. So he tells me he's going to call me tomorrow. He's got some ideas he wants to run through. So now it's Wednesday, the day before CompStat. It's 10 o'clock at night. I'm still at the command, obviously, because I'm preparing. And I get the call, and he said, all right, I got good news and I got bad news for you. And I says, well, what do you got? He goes, the good news is tomorrow's going to be the last CompStat you're ever going to do as a precinct CO. I said, okay. I go, what's the bad news? He goes, you're going to be at every other CompStat for the rest of your life. He goes, I want you to come down and run my CompStat unit. What are you going to say? No to the newly minted chief of department? You know, so I'm like, all right. I had no idea why I got selected, but
you'll get into it because we're going to talk about that. But
yeah,
when I finally got out of the 110, I was there for 3.5 years. I was in the 111 for less than 2 years, and then I was in the 110 for 3.5 years. And like you said, it's dog years, right? At the end, it winds up. You look back and you go, "It's the best time being the precinct commander for so many reasons, even though it's very taxing and it drains you mentally, physically, you know, your family life strains and everything else. But once you get to that next step and you get out of the patrol, you know, mindset, and you're on the other side asking the questions, it's so much better."
No, you know what? I mean, I'll tell you what I like.
And we're gonna talk about one other part of that because we have very similar mindsets when it comes to it. But go ahead, finish your thought.
Yeah. No, so here I am. I show up into the chief of department's office, and I, you know, look, I don't know Phil Banks for a friggin' hole in it. I don't know his managing style. All right,
so we're clearing up at this point that you weren't a Banks guy.
Look, I'm not on this show to try to separate myself from him. I'm just being real with this. That's all. You know.
I understand.
Yeah, but no, I was not a Banks guy. And quite honestly, thank God I was not a Banks guy, because when all of that shit hit the fan, I was the only one not interviewed by the FBI. You know what I'm saying? Because it was, you know, I just didn't have that kind of level of connection. Yeah. You know, whatever happened, whatever they were accused of or anything like that, here I am. I'm working in the office when all of this shit's going on, and never even got one interview, never called or nothing. So that just lets you know there was no, you know, yeah. But I don't even know why I went there, but I did. But now I get to the office, and I'm thinking it's being run the way like Espo ran it, and it's different. It's he one thing about Phil Banks was he did it his way. Bottom line, he didn't care the way it was been done before. He had his own way of doing things, and all right. He was definitely a change agent. He came in there with the mindset is he's going to change the job the way we know it. My first day in his office, I thought my mind was going to explode. He gave me 3 assignments, and each one of those assignments, it wasn't like, all right, here's what I need you to do. I need you to fill a 49 out on the robbery pattern in over here. He's like, no, he goes, I need you to change the culture of the entire department. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is, he wants me to change the entire culture and the way we communicate. And his mind was just like, I walked out and like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? Like, I didn't even know how to approach what he was asking for. So some of the things he gave me, remember the best practices portal? Yeah. I had to create a network where captains and above can communicate with each other. Well, dude, who do you think I am? Fucking Mark Zuckerberg here. Like, I created a network. So I didn't know what to do. I got a couple of IT guys, and I'm like, all right, how do we communicate with each other? And let's create a portal. Let's use, this platform or what have you. But you want to know something, man? I got to be honest with you. As much as a lot of guys did not like that portal, I got. You were one of those that didn't like it?
I didn't care for it. It was it was too much navigation.
Yeah, well, that was the technology.
It wasn't an open forum, you know?
But
Well,
I
again,
was
it's not your
getting,
fault.
at one point, I was getting about like 1,700 hits a day on that. Like there was a lot of people that were engaging on it. So it was pretty interesting.
Part of that was because he was asking about it at CompStat.
That's true too. So I can't. Hey, you know what?
So you had to get in there and get your hit
Yeah,
because you knew your
it was
fingerprint
tough.
was there.
Yeah, you're making a good point, bro. You're making
You
a
knew
good
your
point.
fingerprint was there.
So, but whatever. But these are the type of assignments that he gave me. He gave me another assignment, and I really want to discuss. And the assignment was, Joe, we have this issue with 1011s. He goes, I want to know more about it, and I want to know how to fix it. Now, those of you who are non-NYPD guys on the call, on the show here, 1011s are alarm calls, like burglar alarm calls. These are a huge friggin' nuisance to law enforcement. Almost all of them are false alarms. They come in over and over and over again in volumes that you can't imagine. And Ron and I can name a few people that have been killed responding to these. And one of them is Ray Cannon, in Canarsie, Brooklyn. And what was it? December 2nd of 1994, responding to a burglar alarm of a bicycle store. And now look, when almost all of these calls, when you're getting tens of these a day, hundreds of these a day, and almost all of them are false alarms, you go to them with little to no caution. Yeah. They're like this nuisance job. Sometimes people don't even get out of the car when they respond to them. And I'm not saying that's what Ray Cannon did, but Ray Cannon walked inside that location. There was a perpetrator behind the counter posing as the owner of that store. If I got the story correct.
Yeah.
And he got himself killed. That he was shot and killed at that incident. It's a horrific incident. But my point here is he wanted me to look into this. So I look into it. Let me give you these numbers, man. This is what I came up with. About 100,000 calls came in for the year that I looked at. 100,000 1011 jobs came in. 98.85% of them, Ron, were false alarms. It's just insane that we were responding to this. We were entertaining this. So he says, we got to fix this. So I got the department attorney involved. I wrote an ordinance on how we will regulate this. We have a system in the job to regulate this, but the system can't work. It was designed to fail. And for many reasons, I'm not going to get into the details on this thing here because I don't think we're talking about 1011s. Your 1090 Nora. So and that's pretty much how those jobs were answered. Somebody put in the chat. But
Nora 3.
Yeah. Notice, yeah, it was that notice left. Nobody ever left a notice, bro. Where was that notice going? So the reason why, honestly, just in the short term, why the notices wouldn't work. Like you were supposed to get 3 notices and then your alarm gets shut off. The reason why that doesn't work is because if you're looking at like a mall, every store in that mall has the same address. So if one store is the nuisance, you're going to shut off every store in that address because the alarms were assigned to the address, the way it works. So it was impossible to enforce. But needless to say, I wrote up an ordinance and I tried to get it heard by the city council. And the city council refused to hear it. And I couldn't figure out why. So cynical Joe, you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying this is the reason why.
Yeah.
But I'm saying my cynical thought was, all the owners of these companies that own these alarm companies padding the coffers to these politicians. You know what I'm saying? Like, is this, why can't I even get this issue heard? And we could not even get it heard. So it was a big problem and we were stuck responding to those. I'm telling you that story because I'm going to come back to it because what I'm doing right now with 3SI, I got on a mission to solve that problem. And that's why I even bring it up. It was that issue that just stuck with me forever. We got to fix this. So, best practices, the 1011s. My best one was promotions. Ron, all right? You and I don't want to get in a bitch session about promotions, but my best one was promotions. I'm there for a first couple of weeks, and we needed to promote a few full birds. Now, mind you, I'm going there as a DI.
Right. So you're a deputy inspector. For those
I'm
who
a
don't know,
deputy inspector, and Phil Banks wants me to help him promote some full birds.
Right. So
think of the irony of this.
So
right?
for those who aren't sure what the rank structure is, so you take a promotional exam up to the rank of captain, deputy inspector, deputy chief, assistant chief. They're all discretionary promotions, and lists get circulated through the executive corps and the chief of department, who's where you worked, and we're talking about Phil Banks at the time, has a lot of say in who's getting those discretionary promotions. So go ahead. So he brings you in.
Tremendous say. So brings me in and he says, "Hey, I'm going to promote these 4 people to DI. What do you think?" And I was just like, I looked at the 4 names on there, and
the full inspector.
The full inspector. I looked at the 4 names on there, and I go, "Why these 4? Like, what was the process that picked them? Explain it to me." I know all of these guys; these are all good people, but why these 4? And he goes, "Hey, check your ego." He tells me, because he thinks I'm saying I think I should get promoted before them. And I go, "This ain't got nothing to do with me, Chief." I go, "I can think of 30 people above me and above these people that should be getting promoted. In 1 minute, I can think of 30 people that have dug that hole with a shovel for this department and deserve that kind of recognition." And he's, "Oh, you have a better way?" I go, I honestly don't even, what you're showing me, you're not even showing me a way. You're showing me cronies picked out of a friggin' hat, is what you're showing me. Like, who's getting promoted here? Like, how is this done? What's the process? If anybody wants to get promoted, show me the path to do it. If you show me the path to do it, I'll follow those rules. And everybody else will follow those rules who want to get promoted. He goes, "You think you could build a better system?" I go, "I know I can build a better system."
But to this point, he hasn't told you what the system is.
There is no system. The system is there is no system.
There is no system.
It was bizarre the way I saw it. So he goes, "All right, build it and show it to me. And if it works, I'll do it." And I go, "Well, let me ask you something. What's important to you? Like, what characteristics is the job looking for? Tell me, and I will build a system." So they started laying it out. Well, prior command experience, prior precinct command experience. Okay, how much do you value that? And I put a weight system on that. Education. You got a doctorate, you're going to get more points than if you had a bachelor's degree. Okay, you got military, you're going to get some things. We even put diversity in there. Diversity played a role. So if you fit into diversity, you get some sort of whatever. I just tell me what you want and I'll build it. I'll build it out. And they gave me all of the criteria, the whole bit, and I'm going to call it an algorithm, but it was really just a spreadsheet where I just put all of that information in and then asked who are the top people, out of this entire list. And I brought it to him. I go, "If you want to be fair, these are the 4 people you should promote. And I'm not one of them. Just want to point that out." You know what I'm saying? And I'm not one of them. These would be the 4 people you should promote. And all of that work went nowhere. None of those people got promoted. So.
And it wasn't used moving forward.
Never. So that was my experience with that. And that's all I'm going to talk about, that stuff, because this is where the job fails and creates disgruntled people. I'm not disgruntled. This job did more good for me than it did bad, way more. And I wouldn't be in the position I am in right now if it weren't for that. So
just to let's bring you back just a little. So you're also doing the CompStat stuff. Mm-hmm. Right. So you're running his CompStat unit, you're prepping his CompStat book, looking at all the stuff. Basically, you guys have your own meetings up there and you're coming up with the commands that are going to present, and then basically the issues that are going on at the commands, and in theory, a script for Thursday for what's going to be what's
100% a script.
Right. So people always say, and they've asked me, "Oh, did you ever get a heads up when you were a CO and this, that, and the other thing?" And a lot of it is who you know. in the prior administrations, and probably I'm sure in the current administrations, it's who you know. If you know somebody that's got eyeballs, or it's at those meetings, or may have eyeballs on the script, you might get a heads up. Hey, Ron, this is coming your way on Thursday. But like we've discussed in the past, because you made it a point to reach out to the COs when you were there. But giving a heads up is not giving the answer to the question. It's just saying, hey, this is what we looked at. This is what we found. This is the issue that's going to come up on Thursday. So you know what direction. Where it was really helpful was that you didn't waste time on shit that wasn't going to be spoken about. Because when people look at those CompStat books, they're this thick, They're 6-inch binders that are overstuffed with information on everything and everyone in your command. And having the ability to get those heads up really just had you focusing on the important stuff that was going to come up at those meetings. So it's not cheating. It's not giving the answers because you don't have the answers. That's what the commander needs to present and explain. And if you lived your command and you lived what was going on, you knew it and you were able to articulate what was going on and what your deployment was and everything else. So it's like, it wasn't an unfair advantage. It was an advantage when you got those heads up, because like I said, now I can focus on the important stuff. I don't have to bury myself in the minutia.
Look, having the questions doesn't necessarily mean you will have the answer. No. When you get the question and you find out, oh shit, I'm effed. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have what happened here? Now you're really in damage control and like, how did this happen? And what did I do about it? And what have you? And so I'm going to be honest with you. When I took over that spot, this wasn't a crony thing with me. I called every CO that was up. I didn't care. I
thought I was special, Joe.
Yeah, no. I called every CO. Hey, it's Joe. This is letting you know you're going to be up. These are the things the chief's looking into. Pattern 1, 2, 3, whatever it is. Make sure you know case number 123. He's a little bit kind of concerned about why no subpoena was done on whatever it is. I'll just give them where they're going to go. And so I had no problem doing that. And quite honestly, I actually liked doing that. I felt like I was providing a service to my fellow, COs out there, and I almost felt like a mentor. I wanted to fill that role. Whether people saw me that way or not, that's something else. But I wanted to.
Stephen DES XP. It was a disadvantage for COs that didn't get that heads up. And you're right. In some administrations, if you didn't know somebody, like I worked for Chief Monahan in Queens North. I was the 110 precinct CO, and he went up. And then once he became the CO of O'Neill's, when O'Neill was the chief of department and he was the CO of the office, I jokingly told him, because every Thursday we had our meeting, or every Wednesday we had our borough meeting, and he would be waiting for that phone call because he always got a heads up on what's going to be at the CompStat meeting the next day. So I jokingly told him, I says, listen, Chief, I says, you were the king of getting the heads up. Now that you're in that spot, you better be the king of giving the heads up, And, in all fairness, he did call and let us know. Like you said, it's just basically giving you a direction. He's not giving you the answer. You're the one that has to have the answer. You're the one that has to explain your actions, your deployment, and your command.
Ron, I got to be honest with you. Somebody in here says being fair, knowing where they were going was a big advantage. And to some degree, yes, I'll agree with that. But I got to be honest with you. Sometimes I gave people verbatim the questions, and God, they shit the bed anyway. It just, and I mean, the most bizarre things I've seen up there is, I saw guys pass out. And when you see them pass, dude, you can see that shit from a mile away. It's not like it happens automatically. You see these, and they just go down, and it's like, holy shit. And it just lets you know how real those meetings are. And look, everybody's had a CompStat where they got punched on the chin.
And my
myself
work at
included.
CompStat, Joe, happened to be when you were working up in that office.
I
But
was on vacation, bro.
you were on vacation getting that game hunting done.
Yeah.
So I didn't get a phone call when I
No.
spent 2 hours and 18 minutes of the 3 hours.
I think you spent the whole time on the podium.
I was the only command that went to the podium and got my ass kicked for no reason. I was 5th out of 8 commands in crime. Still to this day, we don't know why. You never found out why.
No.
And it was interesting.
You took it on the chin, bro. You took it on the chin.
My thing, Joe, I used to walk out of there. I used to talk to people. Listen, we got promoted in 2003, right? So I was going to CompStat for so many years because as soon as I came out, I was an impact captain. So I was going to CompStat from day one, right? So I was going to CompStat for so many years and I saw so many things. And like you said, I was at the podium, spent so much time at the podium. I didn't fear the podium. The podium didn't bother me. It was a nuisance. And, you know, I used to talk to the junior people and even some other people and like, you have to talk them off the ledge because they're so upset. They had a bad CompStat. I'm like, listen, what is today? What is today? It's CompStat. It's Thursday. I go, when you go home and you open up your computer, what are you going to see? Your paycheck.
That's it.
Bro, it's still payday. We're walking out of here. It's over. 9 times out of 10, because there are sometimes when you get followed up on when you shit the bed that bad. You're going to walk out of here and they're never going to think about it again.
Agreed. And a lot of people don't, as long as it's not catastrophic.
Yes. That's the one time out of 10.
Yeah.
That
as long as
you may not have a command.
It's not recoverable.
You may not have a command by the time you get back to your borough.
Yeah. So I think, I'm still going to go up against anybody on this call here that thinks they've been on the podium more times than me as a precinct CO. I really will. I could lose, but I just feel like I have that.
Well, I get out average.
I'm going to be in the top 10.
I spent that 2 hours and 18 minutes in one CompStat.
Yeah, maybe.
Can we count that
twice? Yeah. So, but I think, look, I got my ass kicked one time, but I brought it on myself. And I call it the Robert Napolitano syndrome. And I like Rob Nappy. And if you've ever been to a CompStat with Nappy, like he was my first interview on the show. Dude, it was so entertaining watching him at CompStat because he 100% knew his shit and he was not taking shit from nobody, period, end of fucking story. That doesn't come, you don't get there on day one. No. You know what I'm saying? You're not that confident. You're not that brazen on day one. When you got 5 to 6 years as a precinct CO, dude, you just don't give a fuck, man. Yeah. Like you're up at that podium, and it's not that you don't care. It's just like, dude, I've been here before. I know this game, and I came into CompStat and just didn't let Espo make his points. You know what I'm saying? He was just making points. He was not asking me a question. I should have kept my mouth shut, listened to his point, and moved on. And for some reason, I had to pretend I was smarter than him that day. And as much as I love him, another day Joe got put in his place in public. You know. Yeah.
Well, so Steve is saying because your career's on the line. Really, your career's not on the line if you are somewhat competent. You don't even have to be extremely competent.
And you don't have stage fright. So
I know some people, you're right, 100%. I know people that knew their shit. I worked with them in my borough. They knew their command inside and out, A to Z, knew everything that was going on, got to the podium and just froze. I had an FIO that was really decent. And we were at the podium. Bro, he literally froze mid-page turn. I had to reach in from the outside because it was him and the squad commander up there, and they were talking to my field intelligence officer. He was a sergeant, and they were asking him about something, and he literally froze. And I think he shat himself. No joking about this, right?
Yeah.
I literally had to reach in from the outside like this onto the microphone and try and help him recover. Because my chair just rolled away. Hold on.
Yeah.
Because he literally froze, but he knew his shit. But once he got in that, in front of that podium, he just locked up. And he couldn't articulate when I knew, because I had the meetings with them all the time. You know, they're your staff, you know. I knew he's got this cold. His guys did a great job on this, blah, 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 blah. And he just, nothing. He couldn't talk. And it wasn't even like he was taking a hit. He had a great response.
I've seen it so many times.
Did a great job.
I've seen it so many times by guys that I thought were very competent, that knew their stuff. And dude, it just happens, man. And I feel bad for people that that happens to. Look, I felt a rush come to me one time on the podium. Espo had asked me a question and I didn't know the answer. And somebody wrote in here, Courtesis knew every detail of every piece of paper in the comps. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm reading my name wrong, you know, and you know what I'm saying? But like it's saying knew everything, memorized back and forth. And look, I agree with that statement. Like that's the effort that I put into that. So when Espo
wasn't just studying Monday to Wednesday for that CompStat.
I lived it. I was ready for CompStat if you called me the day before.
Right.
This is my life. Dude, I didn't just prepare my book when I was told CompStat. I prepared my book every single week.
Yes.
I prepared my book. It became a habit. It was
and
so
you
easy.
Prepared a lot of your book, not your CompStat team, handing you a full and complete.
When you live it like that, you got it. You're going to be okay at the podium. But what I never anticipated was Esposito, and this is the one that I did bad at. Espo got mad at me, and he goes,
"Oh, did he do this? Did he take his glasses off and throw them down?"
He got mad at me, and he goes, "All right, Joe." He goes, "All right, let's talk about case 123." And I'm going through my files, and I don't have that as a pull case, bro. You know what I'm saying? And I'm looking through, and dude, I'm starting to sweat a little bit. You know, like I've never been in a situation where I was not prepared. So he's like, he goes, "What's the matter, Joe? It's a pull case. How do you not have it?" And now I'm getting even more fucking. I'm looking to my left and looking to my right. He goes, what's, you know, in the whole bit. And I'm like, what the frig, man? Like, did I miss something?
How did I miss this? Yeah.
And then I see Joe Alonga whisper to Espo. You know what I'm saying? Like I see Espo sitting back, and I don't remember Joe Alonga. I see him whisper to Espo, and he goes, "Apparently, we didn't pull this case." You know what I'm saying? he goes, "But you know what, Joe? You're the CO of the command. You should know about this case anyway." And
okay.
I didn't know anything about this case. No. And you know, I'm going to tell you why I didn't know. The case happened on Tuesday of that week. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
The case, you know where you are on Tuesday of that week. You're putting the 28-day period together, bro. That's buried. You know what I'm saying? You're putting the 28-day period together, and I felt if I look at the camera, my face must have turned. Like I could see how people could faint because I felt this rush come up on me, and I held onto the podium, you know, to kind of settle myself a little bit. And I got my breath together. I took the beating, you know what I'm saying? And I moved on. And I was like, "Chief, I have not read that case yet." You know what I'm saying? You just have to fall on the sword.
That's it.
It's from what you're telling me, this sounds horrible.
And some people don't understand that.
I'm going to look into it as soon as I say that.
Instead, they try to bullshit their way through.
No, don't bullshit your way out of it, bro. Make it end. Stab yourself and move on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So now I think we killed CompStat.
Yeah. So you're up. You go up there as a DI, and then while you're there, he promotes you.
Yes, he promotes me almost pretty much right away. Like the second promotion that he did,
deservingly so. After spending,
I was already 5 years in rank of DI. It wasn't like I'm not saying I was overdue, but it wasn't. You
were.
I was already 5 ranks in 5 years in the rank of DI, and I held 2 commands for almost 7 years. So I felt
I used to always text people when the promotions come down, and I probably texted you when your promotion came down. It's about fucking time. I used to hate
I did get that. I did get a lot of those texts. Man. I got such love when I got promoted. It was really nice.
It's the truth. You know the people that deserve it that aren't getting it.
Yeah.
You know?
So
because of the system. That doesn't
He
exist.
wanted to promote me to full bird almost right away. Second group that he promoted, which is really
In the
nice.
current administration, if you worked there, you'd have been a 2-star before you left.
Yeah. I would have been an 8-star in that administration. You know, the way they were triple bumping people. I never seen anything like that before in my life. But whatever. Dude, achieving full bird on that job is a huge achievement.
Yes.
Particularly when you really don't have any, you're not a blue blood. You're in there just pulling your weight.
And I said this when they had the all in and they were showing the promotion pyramid. I was a little taken back because I never walked around. I am Inspector, hear me roar. You know what I'm saying? I always gave credit where credit was due. You know, it was my teams that got me promoted. It was my teams that had the success. Yes, the final say was always mine, but I always said my ability to my success was the ability to build a good team. And that was my path to my success, no matter what my assignment was. And having a common sense look at things, not just try to be over analytical and everything else, just looking at things from a common sense standard. If it doesn't make sense, let's figure out why and fix it. Right. Yeah. So, you know, and then when I saw the pyramid and I saw that in full inspector was in the top 0.3 percentile of the job, I was like, wow, you know, I felt at that point was like probably the first time that I felt like I really fucking accomplished something. Coming from a guy who got on a job with a GED when he was 26 years old, knowing nobody on the job, I did pretty damn good.
Listen, dude, you and I, same thing, dude. I grew up piss broke. I know that now. I'm so fortunate in life, you know, because one guy got promoted before me, dude. If I'm dwelling on that shit, bro, there's something wrong with me.
And listen, we all did it at first. Yeah. We used to watch people and go, really? How many times you look at the finance message and go, really? And then you just after a while you're like, oh yeah. And then you find the one or two that were deserving, and you're like, oh, I'm so glad they got it.
Yeah.
Even if your name's not there.
Yeah, every now and again you see one that just works, and you're so happy for them. And I'm happy for anybody, honestly, because everybody that got promoted, whether I felt they got promoted out of turn, they were most of them were nice people, and you've worked with them to some degree. Yeah, I mean, look, I seen people that were put it this way: when I got promoted to captain, that was such a long road to DI. I knew sergeants that got promoted to DI before I did. You know what I'm saying? Well, I was a captain.
I told you the story. I'm not going to mention the name, but I saw one person that worked with me, and I said to this person, I'm not going to say anything more. I said to this person, I said, "You're going to be my boss one day." This person was a lieutenant when I was a DI. When I left the job, this person was a 2-star chief, and I was still an inspector.
Yeah. So listen, just to kind of move along, I know we're on the 2-hour mark here. Someone's reminding us. So I want to get close to after the job, because I would really like to just let people know how that works out, and those who are contemplating it. So just moving on real quick. You know, everybody knows of Phil Banks's separation from the job was a big mess. And that affected me, and that affected my career a little bit too, because I got labeled as one of, somehow now I'm a Phil Banks guy.
So it is understandable. You're up in the
It happens, bro. It is what it is. And these are,
you get attached to people.
How do you say, whatever. But, the rumor comes down that Phil Banks is going to become the first deputy commissioner. And at that point, I'm not going up to the first deputy commissioner's office. I'm not in his circle. He can only bring a tight circle of people up to the first deputy commissioner's office. And dude, I'm not even close to one of those people that are going to go up with him. So I know I think they had already named that O'Neill was coming in to replace him. And it's just a matter of time. It's going to happen in about a month or so. So I'm not thinking of it. And I go on vacation to go on a hunting trip. And I'm in the woods. I'm in a fucking tree stand with camouflage on. You know what I'm saying? And people start texting me like crazy. Phil Banks just quit. Phil Banks just quit. Something crazy, whatever happened. He just walked out. He had some falling out or whatever it was. And I'm like, all right, well, whatever, dude. I'll deal with it when I come back. This is my recreation. I'm a big hobby guy, bro. I hunt. I snowmobile. I can't wait for the snow coming up this week, bro. Like,
don't even get me started. I'm supposed to fly out tomorrow to Florida and fly home on Sunday. I don't know if I'm getting home.
Oh yeah, you ain't coming home on Sunday. I'm flying home tomorrow.
And I'm going with the kids, and
Yeah.
I know the family. So
yeah, good luck with that, bro. You just change the flight home, bro. Come back on Tuesday or something. So it'll be cleared up by then. There ain't no way you're coming back on Sunday. I'll tell you that.
I'm trying to tell the wife. But.
So and where was I? I lost my train here. But
you're hunting. And
I'm hunting, and
you get that phone
hit
call.
me up that Phil Banks is leaving, and I'm like, all right, I'll deal with it when I come back. I want to focus on hunting, and then next thing you know it, I get a phone call from Terry Monahan, and I look at the phone, and I have him in my phone, and I'm answering the phone. I'm like, hey, what's up? He goes, hey, Joe, I don't know if you heard. I'm like, yeah, no, everybody's hitting me up on the phone here. He goes, all right. He goes, listen, I was just wondering where you want to go. I go, where I want to go. And he says, yeah, no, we're taking over the office here. And I'm like, dude, like, this can't wait till I fucking come back, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, you need an answer. Like, where do I want to go? Like, like I have a landing spot that I want to go at. And I got a little annoyed, and I was just kind of like, dude, fucking dump me wherever you want to dump me, bro. And he got defensive. He's like, hey, you know what? It's not like that, man. We love you. O'Neill loves you, this and that. He goes, we want to land you something, where you want to go, whatever you want to do. And I was like, I might as well swing for the fence. And I said, listen, I was just doing, and I was personally interviewing people for the Taru spot that just opened. And I'm like, maybe I'll interview myself for that spot. I was like, hey, listen, Taru spot's open. I'd be glad to jump into that if that was open. So let me get back to you. It gets back to me and says, nah, I already gave it to somebody. The whole bit where you want to go. I'm like, dude, just send me to Queen South, bro. I don't care where I go. Send me wherever you want to send me. I'm cool with it. And calls me back and tells me Bobby Boyce threw a lifeline out. And he says, hey, man, he knew me. And he said, I'd like him to come back to the Detective Bureau. And dude, I was really excited about coming back to the Detective Bureau. Like, it was when I got promoted to sergeant out of the A3 squad, I've been trying to get back to the Detective Bureau my whole career. You know what I'm saying? That's all I wanted to do, is get back to the Detective Bureau. So here I am. I'm like, you know what? This is awesome. I'll go back to the Detective Bureau. Bobby Boyce grabs me, puts me in as the XO of the Grand Larceny Division for like a minute, and then immediately puts me in as the commanding officer of the Central Investigations Division. So I like the fact I had the title of commanding officer in the Central Investigations Division, but dude, it was an admin spot. And I can't do that, bro. You know what I'm saying? I have to be involved in police work, dude. I'm a cop, and right now I'm dealing with procurements and budgets and logistics, and you know what I'm saying? And dude, this it's not for me, man. But whatever. I wound up doing that for about a year and a half, and then Boyce came up to me and said, Joe, I need to replace the CO in Real-Time Crime Center. You have any recommendations? Boom, I got somebody right away. He's like, who do you got? I'm like, right here, bro. I got it. And he was surprised that I volunteered for it, and questioned me about it. And I'm like, dude, I'm totally into it. I can get back to doing some police work. I'd like to go. So it puts me in there, and I was really happy there. Yeah, I was really, really happy there, man. I had a really good staff. I had some smart people. It was a command, and I'm not saying I'm very smart. I met the Batman there. It was fantastic. He gave me a bat phone. It was this way in case I needed him to help us out at all. We can emergency call him. Everything about the unit was fun and serious, and a good group of guys. And I'm there for about a minute, and I'm sitting back in my office, and I'm looking around, and it was the first time, Ron, that I saw life outside the job. I looked at this, and I was so focused on moving up and and increasing my career inside the police department, it was that very moment where I thought to myself, I think I'll do well off this job. I have a good work ethic. I work hard. Look what I have achieved in the NYPD. You know what I'm saying? Without any assistance, why can't I do this on my own? And at that point, I just started focusing on the Real-Time Crime Center. I wanted to learn as much about that technology as possible. I wanted to stack my talent. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to know everything about anything I could. And I got deep into all kinds of investigative technologies, deep into the facial recognition. Fortunately for me, and I hate to say that when something goes wrong and it's a benefit to you, facial recognition became very controversial while I was in there. And law enforcement was taking a big hit on the way they were utilizing it. So I got a call from the BJA, like the Bureau of Justice of Assistance, and the Department of Homeland Security, looking for some subject matter experts in facial recognition. They wanted to create a national policy template for the ethical use of facial recognition in law enforcement. So we all got together and we created this template. Then once that template was done, I was approached by the World Economic Forum, the Ontario Privacy Commissioner, the Biometric Institute, so many other places. And I just started getting involved in so deeply in that space that now I became a national figure in the facial recognition. Next thing you know, I'm speaking I'm in Dubai, you know what I'm saying? Speaking at the World Police Summit on it. And at that point, I decided I think I might want to pull the plug on the NYPD and take a look at what life after the job looks like. And I had no plan. I had no job set up, Ron, nothing at all. And I just announced, you know what, I'm going to retire and explore some work out there. Yeah, this is in Dubai. I'm speaking on facial recognition out there. It's just pretty cool. So I wanted to explore it, and a lot of the vendors out there heard I was retiring, and I get a call from somebody from Thomson Reuters. I don't know if you guys ever used the product Clear. It's an investigative tool, really cool tool. But I wasn't a big user of that tool, quite honestly. But I get a call from Thomson Reuters, and they my unit used it, but I used it a little bit, but not much. And they reach out to me and they says, "Hey, listen, we heard you're retiring. Did you have anything lined up?" And I said, "No." And he goes, "Well, would you want to come work for us?" And I said, "Well, in what capacity?" And he says, "Well, what are you looking for? You want to be full-time? You want to be part-time? Or you want to be a consultant?" And Ron, dude, I'm going to display my ignorance right now. I didn't know what the fucking consultant was, bro. I didn't. I was like, dude, what do you mean consultant? What does that mean? What do I consult on? How does that work? And he turned around to me and he said, listen, he goes, I think, based on what I know about you, he goes, you have a knowledge base in a few different technologies. He goes, I think you do well as a consultant because you can leverage somebody who says, I never got a civilian complaint in my entire career. What did he say? Is it true? This is true. This is true. Listen, man, I treated my perps well, man. I locked people up, and I when they were in that cell, I bought them pizza.
Even the guy you threw down before you got promoted to sergeant.
That one, actually, I don't know what happened to that one, quite honestly, but it never made it to CCRB, and he did come in. So
and I think Samara Cohen is she's confusing real-time crime with operations.
Oh yeah.
So having all agencies sitting in the operations doing nothing is a giant waste.
Yeah. This is he said to me, I think you'd be good as a consultant because you can leverage your earning potential working for multiple companies as a consultant rather than just coming on full time with us. He goes, listen, he goes, have you ever heard of Ron Brooks? He said to me. And I said, I have no idea who Ron Brooks is. And this is another person that I think Tommy Joyce interviewed.
Yes.
And then I conferred with Tommy Joyce. Tommy, because Tommy Joyce had been retired for a while. He started giving me advice about consulting, and I really appreciate that. And then everybody, you started to see that off the job, everybody's trying to help each other, Ron. When you get promoted to captain, everybody's trying to stab each other. You know what I'm saying? It's a terrible atmosphere. It's a terrible environment and a terrible atmosphere. Off the job, dude, we're all trying to help each other off the job succeed. Nobody's a threat to you. Everybody's a partner. Let's take care of this. Tommy Joyce tried to help me. And then they introduced me to Ron Brooks. I'm going to introduce you to Ron Brooks. He goes, Ron Brooks started a consulting company called BBM, Brooks, Bottom and Moore. Very successful consulting company. He's a retired law enforcement guy on the West Coast. He goes, let me introduce you to him and let's see if he can get you started up. If he gets you started up, we'll bring you on as a consultant. It's okay. I meet with Ron Brooks. Dude, I don't know this guy for a hole in the head. I'm on the phone with him for 3 hours. This guy taught me how to price myself, taught me how to start my business, start my LLC, how to negotiate, and what those contracts should look like. He almost wrote it out for me what to do. I have such admiration for this guy. So when I saw him on Tommy Joyce's show, man, I made sure to send some love that way. That's a true gentleman in the law enforcement industry, outside the NYPD, but solid dude. And now I went out, I started my own consulting company, and the next thing you know it, I have 1 contract, I have 2 contracts, I have 3 contracts. At one point, I think I had almost 10 contracts, Ron. I'm on a plane once a week. I'm flying all over the place. I'm loving this. I'm absolutely loving this. And all I want to do is help everybody else do the same thing. And anytime I see, I want to be that Ron Brooks. I want to be that Esposito. You can't, it is who you are, but I'm telling you, any executive on the job right now that's looking to leave and needs some guidance, dude, reach out to me, man. And I have no problem walking you through, lining it up. I already done this for a lot of people on the job. I'm not going to mention their names, but a lot of people on the job who had left, I helped them get set up, and I know they appreciate it. And you want to know what happens with that, Ron? They'll get a contract that comes in. Somebody will try to hire them for something that they don't have the skill set for. And they'll turn around, but I know somebody who does. And then they'll call me up and say, hey, Joe, I got this one for you. And then they hand it to you and you get a contract. Or I'll get one and we hand it, and it's a great network. It's pretty fantastic. So I started my own consulting company, JCour Consulting. And then the facial recognition stuff just got so busy that and I identified a problem regarding facial recognition. There were about 10 incidents where law enforcement had arrested the wrong person based on a facial recognition, facial recognition lead. And what was happening was they were blaming the algorithm. They were basically saying, well, it must be a biased algorithm, or, based on the demographics of the people being arrested. The only answer is it has to be a biased algorithm. What else could it be? So they attacked the algorithm. And then in reality, when the algorithm was tested by the National Institute of Standards of Technology, it turned out that none of those algorithms were biased. Some algorithms don't work very well, but the algorithms that were used in those cases were not biased. So what else could it be? And it turned out that in every single case, even though the detective is supposed to treat the facial recognition as a lead, they were not treating it as a lead. So we investigated why they were not treating it as a lead. And it turns out that there's a lot of cognitive bias. They don't have any knowledge of how the technology works. None of the training makes it down to their way. And they're conflating facial recognition technology with identifiable biometrics like fingerprints, DNA, and iris. Those technologies are identifiable biometrics. Facial recognition is not. And these were the errors that were being made. So I started another company called I co-founded it with Ralph Salento. I don't know if you know Ralph. Ralph's a good guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ralph did a show
Absolutely
with
good.
John and Eric. A great
Oh
show.
my God, was that show friggin' funny, bro?
Oh,
Dude, if
the
anybody on this audience did not watch the Ralph Salento show, if you want some good entertainment, Jay, Affronte, wow, from the 8-3, man. Long time, brother, man. You know, Affronte, you were one of the cops I looked up to, bro. Seriously, you and your partner, bro, Tony DeFiti, man. Thank you so much. So, but dude, watch the that show with friggin' with Ralph Salento, man. You want to laugh your ass off. The total entertainment. But I don't want to put Ralph out there like a clown. He's not a clown. He's a serious freaking guy.
Yeah.
And he was an instructor for the NYPD with the training the detectives on the homicide course, the interrogator course. He's world renowned now. He's known all over the place. So when I don't have any training experience. So like you said, you got to put a good team together. So I have the technical knowledge. I have the institutional knowledge. People know me in that space, so I lend credibility to the program. But I'd rather see Ralph running it. So I asked Ralph if he'd be interested in doing some business with me. He said absolutely, and we started the facial recognition investigative consulting company. It's called Frick. If you guys want to connect on LinkedIn, Ralph runs this. I'm kind of outside of this now because now I have moved on. I still consult, at a much smaller level. I wound up taking a position with one of the companies that I consult with, and that is a position with a company called 3SI. And now I'm the senior vice president of a global law enforcement division for 3SI. And when I put this into perspective, I have about 24 retired police executives that work in this law enforcement division. We cover all of the United States, Canada, the UK, and part of Latin America. And we get law enforcement plugged in. Thanks, man. We get law enforcement plugged in with the GPS technology. So if you remember the story I told you before on how we leverage that GPS technology to conduct those investigations, this happened to be one. This is the company whose product we were using in the NYPD back then to make those successful arrests, and that's how I got bought into it when it helped me solve that burglary case. And then in the real-time crime center, the amount of success, the amount of guns we took off the street just with this type of technology, because you're catching robbers in the process of committing a robbery. Our company keeps these trackers at all of the banks and the money, like the money packs and what have you. So the company, just a long story short, and I know I'm advertising the company, but it's just cool stuff, man. And if you're still on the job, you should really leverage this stuff. It's really of no cost to law enforcement for the most part. The commercial establishments buy it. You just should need to know you have it available in your agencies. The company started off about 50 years ago as a die pack company. If you remember those old die packs, they put them in the currency, and then guy steals it, and it's really was made to deny the prize. Almost never really ended in an arrest. The guy exploded on them, denied the prize, they ran away. About in 2004, they moved away from the die pack and started putting GPS trackers in there. Once they started putting the GPS trackers in there, they needed law enforcement to actually respond. Who are they going to send the track to? So the law enforcement division, which I run right now, started going door to door to every police department in the United States and saying, hey, if we get a live burglary, do you want access to the track? And they were like, yeah, absolutely. So they started deploying it in the dispatches throughout the entire country. Fast forward 20 years later, Ron, 3SI portal is the directed dispatch portal is in over 10,000 police departments across the United States.
Wow.
So you steal one of these, we send a signal directly to those dispatchers, and they start navigating. And it goes around the 911 system. This is going straight to the dispatcher who is pushing it out. And it's right on a terminal inside their desk. And that's what I'm here out in Houston right now. because we're now sending information. And this is why only reason why I took this job was because it's to solve the 1011 issue. If you remember, I mentioned before,
Right.
we 3SI was only sending tracker information. We are now sending video from those locations through. So, and that's what directed dispatch is. So if you look, this is what that user interface looks like. These cops will now, when they're responding to a 1011 or a job that was suspected 1011, they'll know if it's a 31 when they're arriving there, because we're giving them access to the video as they're arriving.
Just again for the audience, a 1011 is a burglar alarm, and a 31 is an actual burglary call.
Yeah. So I'm out here in Houston right now. We're doing a pilot program in here. We got a bunch of huge commercial establishments in the Houston area that are willing to share their video with the Houston Police Department. So I'm out here with the Houston executive team here, kind of just showing them how that information comes in, how to navigate it, and how to get it down into the hands of the police officer when they respond. So, once again, this is nothing that's sold to law enforcement. This is just us finding a way to get law enforcement critical information during an incident at a critical time. And it's for emergency purposes only, and for officer safety. Imagine responding to a job where you got a call of a perp fled in a white SUV versus having a photo of the actual SUV as you're arriving. It's much more descriptive. You can see what the headlights look like or the taillights look. It's like when you order an Uber, you can see the Uber coming from a mile away because they show you a picture of it on the phone. So this is kind of what we're giving here. No mistakes in the descriptions. This is an image of the perpetrator. So all good stuff, and coming live as the incident is happening, unfolding. This isn't after the fact. This is as they're responding. So that's my pitch on that. But this is what I'm doing, bro. This is a lot of fun. I don't know if I haven't been reading somebody in here said great company. Anybody in here who's saying great company has used it before. They get it. It's all cool stuff. I got 100% buy-in from Houston while I was here. This is pretty exciting. These guys are so sharp, Ron. This whole department is friggin' incredible. And they were giving me some great ideas on how we can make this better. So
good stuff.
Yeah, no, that's my story, man. It's pretty exciting, and I thank you again for just helping me reflect on all of this. It was,
Yeah, it's good stuff. Hey, listen, just take you back just a quick question. What was your favorite assignment throughout your career?
I think the 8-3 squad. I think, that's a hard one to answer because I had so many good ones. But the 8-3 squad was my favorite in that I felt like I didn't belong. Listen, I got to the 8-3 squad with 3 years on the job. And I felt like, dude, I don't belong here, bro. And it was an odd feeling. I knew I earned, but truly I didn't belong there. But that group of people in that 8-3 squad, I was partnered with a guy named Freddie Aponte, mentored me like an older brother. Larry Eggers, God rest his soul, and Monzert and Mooney and Bridgman and the whole that whole team there. These were some of the greatest investigators, and they embraced me, bro. You know what I'm saying? They could have been like, get this rookie kid out of here, and they came in there and taught me everything that they knew and just made me a better cop moving forward. And dude, to have that kind of experience in your career is, I know it was only 2 years, but it was pretty good, man.
Yeah. And Samara Cohen's asking, do you miss the job? I think you kind of answered that earlier.
Yeah, well, I'll answer directly. No. You know what I'm saying? You know, I don't miss the job. I appreciate the fact that I reflected on, you know, I got a chance to sit back and reflect on the good times and the people and all the great events that happened in there. And you know, I watch a lot of these interviews, and so, dude, I gotta be honest with you. Sometimes I turn them off once they start getting negative. Like I don't want to go there, bro. I don't want my, that's negative energy. And you gotta get rid of all negative energy in your body, bro, and just keep pushing forward with anything. And I don't know, negative energy brings negative things, man, every single time.
Yeah. And listen, you know, and you chose when you were ready to go, and you left on your terms, and you chose to take what you learned on this job and carry it into, you know, a second career, fulfilling career that you're still enjoying because you're making a difference. And it's like, again, you know, you said it earlier that we have a lot of similarities in our paths. And you know, I left the job when I've said it many times. You know, as corny as it sounds, you know, when I felt I couldn't make that difference anymore, you know, and make a difference, it was time to go. And after I got hurt and I got basically put in an office, I was in charge of friggin', you know, a lieutenant, a sergeant, and you know, 8 cops, and I'm a full inspector on restricted duty, can't even go out on patrol. I'm watching Netflix at night. Who would die for that job? I had to leave. I couldn't do it. It wasn't me. So it was time to go. And so you decided this, and it's time to go. You left at a good time. I'll tell you that.
Oh man, did I leave at a good time, man?
Good time to go.
I had no idea the world was gonna go fucking bonkers, bro.
Yeah.
And you know, leaving in 2020, and then I mean, could you even?
Job went up.
You can't even write a book that would be believable about what went on in 2020. But look, what I want to say is, I love the profession of policing. I love the people that I met in the police department, and I wouldn't change in a minute going back to 1993. You know what I'm saying? Joining the police department.
Oh, now you're answering the question we always ask at the end.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no. So
you're getting ahead of me.
Yeah, I know. But what I do want to tell everybody on the thing here, if you really like policing, but you really don't want to do policing anymore, you don't want to be involved in the politics of things like that, find a job that supports law enforcement. It's very rewarding. I'm retired, and this year, and I'm saying I did it. I didn't do it, but I'm gonna say it anyhow. Our product and my team took 55 guns off the street throughout the United States this year. 55 illegal guns off the street. We assisted law enforcement with over 912 arrests, felony level robbery arrests, and we recovered $2.4 million of our clients' property. Dude, I'm still a freaking cop, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm just not in the NYPD. I'm in every police department in the country. And I'm on the phone with them. I'm helping them with their investigations. We're tracking. We're doing Wi-Fi sniffing and cell phone, you know, coordinations. It's the investigations we're getting involved in is just, I love it, man.
And you say, you know, you love being a cop, and you know that never leaves you. And even when you talked about your assignment, when you got in charge of CIS, and it just wasn't you. I felt the same way when I was over in candidate assessment, you know, the administrative job. I did it to the best of my ability because, like you, no matter what assignment you give me, I'm going to give you 110%. But it just wasn't, you weren't happy, you weren't comfortable, you know. And so even on your last day, and you alluded to it earlier, on your last day, you know, back to Troutman.
It's where I went. So let me explain, and thank you for showing this picture, man, because this is hits a soft spot in my heart. On my last day on the job, I decided to go back to those places that had an impact in my life. And my first stop was the 83rd precinct, and I walked a foot post that day on Troutman and Nick. I didn't tell anybody I was going there. I grabbed the driver. Next thing you know it, there's a department photographer following me around. The borough chief and the XO show up and walk the footpost with me.
I'm gonna get this, Amara.
Yeah. So I know I'm gonna get made fun of with the trench coat.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
go ahead,
yo.
Ron, go there, bro. I know what you're gonna say.
We don't wear those coats anymore. That was
Yeah.
in the 80s.
He's like, dude, what's with the friggin' trench coat, man? What's what you? He said to me, what's what you short guys in the trench coat?
I did.
And I go, it's not a short guy thing, bro. It's an Italian thing. So, and you know what, dude? I actually thought I looked good, bro.
You do. You look good. You're solid. Listen, you came on the job, not like me. I didn't leave the job in the same, size that I came on the job. You kept yourself in good shape. I give you that.
Dude, I'm going to tell you all that on this call, bro. Take care of you first.
Yeah.
Period. Not your job, not anything, not even your family. And I'm going to tell you that you cannot take care of your family if you don't take care of yourself. Take care of yourself. Eat right. The first thing I do in the morning is work out. And dude, I don't want to act like I'm in this super shape thing. I'm too old to be in good shape. But dude, if you're just walking, I don't care what you're doing. Do something. Keep yourself together. And then you'll be able to take care of everybody. You'll be able to focus at work. You'll be able to take care of your family, and do the right thing. So, but look, this was Troutman and Nick. I noticed some controversial figures I've shown in these photos here, but dude, I appreciate, the borough chief comes down to.
I work with Jeff Manager too in housing,
Yeah. I was honored by this. It was actually pretty cool.
And that's Charlie McAvoy to your left.
Charlie McAvoy, great guy, man. Absolutely great guy. We were precinct commanding officers in Queens South. He had the 102 when I had the 106. And then from the 83rd precinct, I went, I signed out of there. And after signing out of the 83rd precinct, I headed to the 105 precinct, and I went end of career at the 105. And that was the 106, and this is the 105, and I'm signing out of the 105, and everybody's asking me some questions, and I'm letting them know, hey, I grew up in this neighborhood. My mom lived 2 blocks away from the actual command, and I said I always knew my picture would be hanging up in this precinct. I just never knew it was going to be for a good reason, So, and that was my last thing, and I walked out.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
So what we always ask, we're 2 hours, 30 minutes in. Do I really want to open up Pandora's box? Just give me a quick, I teased you on this last night when we were talking. Give me quick thoughts on today's administration. You have to go real deep. Quick thoughts.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It's okay. I know one of them and I don't know the other. So let's start with the person I don't know. I don't know Mamdani. Never met this guy before. The only thing I know about him is what I see on TV. If I'm going to do a character assessment, I'm going to say the man's very charismatic. He's a good speaker. I can see how he appeals to a certain community or people with certain beliefs, and he delivers himself very well. I clearly have opposing political and views than he does. If I was still a voting member of New York City, I would not have voted for him. And most people don't say who they're going to vote for, but that's as much of opinion as I can do. I don't know the guy to take a big opinion. But listen, he's the mayor, bro, and that's it. It's not like he's their mayor or that dude. He's our mayor. It is what it is. It's elections matter, and now here we are, and we got to make the best of it. Jessica, on the other hand, I do know Jessica. In my time in the Real-Time Crime Center, and look, everybody knows Jessica, and those who know her, I never worked with her, but I knew her because we crossed paths. I had the Real-Time Crime Center, and she was running IT at the time. And there is a little friction right there. I don't think she was a big fan of the Real-Time Crime Center, and I think if she had it her way, she would have dissolved it. I think these are things people told me. She never said that to my face. But dude, she changed the job, bro. You know what I'm saying? Think about it. Yeah. Before she came there, we couldn't even sign on to the internet. We could not access anything on those computers. You talk about a bull in a china shop. The reason why the administration before she was the police commissioner, the reason why before her couldn't get anything done was because they sent everything to OMAP, where all good ideas go to die. She said they would send everything to legal, where all good ideas go to die. She said, fuck that. I ain't listening to nobody. This is what I want to do. Boom, I'm doing it. End of story. And look, she made some really good decisions, and she made a couple of bad ones, like the what do you call it? The
first phone.
The phone, yeah, the Microsoft phone. I mean, I don't know what she was thinking at that point, but I'm sure she had her reasons. But the Microsoft phone was an absolute failure. But that one thing, I don't think outweighs some of the great technology things that she did for this age. She brought us to a completely another level.
And so what do you think? What do you think about not someone that doesn't come up through the ranks of law enforcement? That's not necessarily the NYPD, but coming up through law enforcement, because she didn't come up through law enforcement. She came up through the civilian IT. Again, did great things, was given the latitude to make the positive changes and bring us closer to current day technology, because we're always going to be behind. But I agree with that 100%. I know that she was a wrecking ball and a force of nature to get things done, and did get them done in record time. I'll give you that. What do you think about her as police commissioner? And you might be a little skewed because you do know her, but just the idea
I'll be honest.
Someone that didn't come up through the ranks of law enforcement running an agency such as the NYPD.
I'm going to be blatantly honest here. And I'm looking at this from an angle that I think is unique to me right now. Because I'm no longer looking at things through an NYPD lens. I'm looking at things from a law enforcement lens at a much more national scale.
Right.
So my involvement with the NYPD is limited to none. But I'm with all of these other police departments across America, and there are 70 major city chief agencies. NYPD is one of them. And what I have found is that everybody who's in charge of one of these big police departments, every chief that's in charge of one of these big police departments, they have to do what their mayor tells them to do. 100%. They don't have autonomy. They're not elected into that position. So, and all of a sudden, and you've seen it, I'm not naming any PCs. There have been PCs that we've had in our tenure that I know did not agree with the mayors they were working for, and then all of a sudden agreed for that mayor when they became this. We're fighting for agendas of that mayor when they became the PC. Total personality change. So this is a unique situation, Ron, that I actually think she fits. And the reason why I think she fits is because she don't give a fuck.
Right.
She's gonna do what she wants to do, and what she's
allowed to do. What she's allowed to do.
And quite frankly, I don't think Mandami can fire her. I don't think he can. Okay. So I think she has some level of power here, and this may balance this. You may be surprised. This may balance out what people anticipate he might be doing. Dude, I could be wrong. This is just my 30,000 point view on this. But
And I'm gonna agree with 92 Charlie, where I'm gonna say that yes, I agree with you in the point of she's in a position that, like you said, she don't care. She's not doing it for the money. I don't think she's doing it for the glory and the fame. I don't think she needs that. I don't know what her political aspirations, if she has any, are. I don't know. Some people say that she's, using this as a stepping stone for some political aspirations. I don't know. I just feel that a police chief, anyway, take out NYPD. You have to understand the culture of policing in order to manage the personnel, which, as we know as precinct commanders, which is basically, you're the CO, you're in charge of that whole world, right? So as the police commissioner, you're in charge of the whole police world. You have to understand the culture, to understand the members, and be able to put yourself in their position in order to manage it properly. Granted, you can build great teams. You can put the right people that have that experience beneath you. I don't know that she's done that necessarily. She has a lot of other civilian, non-police people that surround her. I know that she has, Bratton and other people that are her confidants and do counsel her. And I'm not just even talking just about Jess Tisch. I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about people, period, that have to understand the culture of policing and what it's like to be a cop, to be a supervisor, to be an executive. I think that is critical, because I think that she's making a lot of extreme decisions, especially when it comes to discipline. And I think the reason for it is her lack of empathy, her lack of understanding from the view of the members. Not that she's a bad manager, but she just doesn't have that.
I don't disagree with anything you said. So I just want to make myself clear here. I don't disagree with anything that you just said whatsoever. I'm just looking at, there's a balance. You know what I'm saying? So you have a PC that that has all of those qualities that you said, but now cannot execute those qualities, because if he or she opens up his mouth, he's going to get fired. You know what I'm saying? He's going to get fired. If you so, and you see them change almost immediately. And I've seen the personality changes, and I'm like, dude, who are you, bro? I don't know you. And I'd rather get a little deeper on this offline, you know what I'm saying? But I've seen some decisions made where I'm like, you did not just do that. And there's no way you agree with what you just did. But yet that person was a person who can relate to cops. That person was a person, you know what I'm saying? Who went up through the ranks and did all of those things. So why did you sell yourself out like that, bro?
Yeah.
What happened? What happened to your character? So I don't know. I just think if looking at this from, like I said, I'm so separated. I don't even live in the city anymore, so I don't want to say it's not my problem. It's my family still lives there, but I don't even live in the city. I just don't focus on that stuff anymore. I'm kind of, dude, I'm all about good vibes, bro. You know what I'm saying? I'm all about good vibes,
and I try to stay there too. And I'm not trying to be negative. I'm not. Like I said, I'm not knocking her. I think she's a good manager. I think she's done good things for the police department. I'm not sure what she did over in sanitation. She brought technology into that realm also. I just think that, she can be a good manager. And yes, every police commissioner and the upper executive staff, their mandate is whatever the mayor's mandate is. That's the argument of having someone that's appointed versus someone that's actually voted in, where they have the complete autonomy. So I agree with you.
I love that. I wish the PC was voted in. You know what I'm saying? I really do. I wish the PC was voted in. Well, maybe not because
Marlon's gonna love you on that one because that's
yeah. Well, you know what?
Marlon's
Like I don't know.
100% into voting.
Depends on.
You know,
I would love for them to be voted in by the members of the department. Like they're the only people who could vote. You know what I'm saying? That would be the perfect world.
All right.
You know, so
we're 2:45 into this.
Yeah.
Let's start winding down. I'll give you the final word in a couple minutes. But at the end of the last segment that Rob and I do is this thing called, I know you've seen the show, it's called Ask an Executive, where Ron and Rob answer questions from the chat because a lot of times people in the chat don't have that ability to have access to executives to ask us questions. So we open up the chat and say, hey, ask us any questions on topic, off topic. Tonight's topic was just your career, so that's great. But anybody that has any questions for an executive, we open up the floor to them. We also allow people to email us questions offline, which we don't have any this week, or they can DM us. You know, it's the executive perspective at gmail.com or DM us on X at exec perspective. The DM is open to everyone, so feel free to jump in. So I asked you if you'd be interested, and you said you would. So tonight we're going to have Ask the Executive, Ron and Joe answer questions from the chat. So feel free. We're going to open it up. I didn't see any questions really in the chat during the conversation today because normally we have questions related to the topic that we'll save till the end. So if anybody wants to jump in there and ask Samara Cohen, she's asking, do you miss your Category 1 take-home car? And did you take care of Iraq? Is that an inside thing?
I don't know what that means, but do I miss my Category 1 RMP? You know, Ron, I don't know if you experienced this. When you're a precinct CO, you have a guy or a girl that takes care of the fleet of all of the cars. So all I knew is my car was clean and had a full tank of gas every single day. So the biggest thing that I experienced when I retired was, dude, you got to put gas in the car. Otherwise, you know what I'm saying? Otherwise it's gonna run out and you're gonna have a problem. So it took me a little bit of time to kind of get used to understanding that you got to stop at the gas station. Do I miss the RMP? No, the RMP is absolute effing bullshit. And I'm going to tell you why the RMP is bullshit. I wish I didn't even have one when I was on the job, because what's the point of having a take-home car if I can't use it off duty? And I'm going to give you the point. I'm out to dinner one time in Manhattan, right? And I'm meeting a couple out in Manhattan, and my wife go out there, and I have to take my personal car. So because I can't put my wife in the RMP, but now I get called in for an officer-involved shooting. So what I got to do? I got to drive fucking home. I got to drive home, drop off my personal car, and get the actual car. What's the point of giving me a car if I can't get there faster?
Right.
So anywhere else in the country, when you have a take-home car, it's your car.
Right.
And the whole point of having a car is so that you can get to the emergency quickly. If you're not going to offer that in a Category 1, dude, take the car and get rid of it. Or make them all marked cars. It's a complete nuisance. I'm fine with my own car. And I said that back then. I'm not saying that now. This car is just a pain in the ass to me.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
You got to take your kids to school. I had to drive my kids to school and then drive back home, get my other car, and then go to work.
I rolled the dice.
Bro, how crazy is this?
I rolled the dice.
Yeah, well,
I rolled the dice. But I know an inspector that lost 10 days for going through a divorce. His wife dropped a log, and he was dropping his kids off on the way to work. Not like using his car, dropping his kids off, going back home, having breakfast, hanging out on the way to work, and he took a 10-day hit. So it is what it is. All right, fire detective. That's Marlon Bethel. He's a member of the Finest Unfiltered family. He's on Monday and Fridays with John and Eric in the morning. He's asking, what's harder, the private sector or the NYPD? I can't answer that because when I left this job, everybody said, what are you going to do? What are you going to do when you leave the job? And I said, I'm going to update the sports package. I'm not leaving the job to work another job. That's just my personal choice. Thank God. I live a very humble means. I'm below my means. So it's not like I need the second salary. And I just didn't want to work. And God bless you, somebody that's got that drive and initiative and wants to work. Don't get me wrong. My wife wants me out the house and wants me to find another job, but that's another story. But
Ron, you're working right now. You have the podcast. So when I don't know, and what I'm saying is, and to answer that question directly, when you leave the job, do not think about getting another job. This is my advice. Don't try to get another 20-year career, because then you're going to compare, well, which is harder, this job or that job? Dude, do whatever the fuck you wanted to do in your life, period. But it's been delayed because you spent this time in the NYPD. If you were not in the NYPD, what would have you done? Hey, I would have loved to sit on the beach and paint seashells. Dude, go sit on the beach and fucking paint seashells. Do and just do what you want to do. I don't have to work. You don't have to work. You're keeping yourself busy doing this podcast. Is it work to you? Probably not. Like, you're not seeing it as work. You just labeled it. I didn't take another job. I didn't do anything. So what's harder? If you take another job, I can't answer that question because I don't know how stressful that job's going to be. But if you just do what you want to do, dude, it's just easy. And then leave when you want to leave.
Don't do it for the quote unquote for the money, for the Benjamin.
If you needed to pay your mortgage,
dude,
you're in a bad space, bro.
Yes, I agree.
Like you bought too much shit that's outside your what you can afford.
Yeah, I agree. All right, Delray 53. Always good questions. Who was more feared at CompStat, Espo or Anamone? I think
by a mile.
By a mile. Anamone was a wrecking ball. It was also different. They had CompStat twice a week in the beginning. It was a lot more adversarial. You didn't have technology, which was a problem because even in the beginning, when we had CompStat in the beginning, the technology didn't match. They were running off of Cognos. We were running off of Microsoft. What was that? Access. Right,
they were doing. You remember a Map Info,
right? Map Info, which you didn't have access to, like you said. We couldn't do it on the internet.
Exactly. Only the chief of department had access.
Right,
you didn't. So they were putting those numbers up behind your head, and you didn't have a way of knowing.
And even like Microsoft Access was fully repetitive and manual data entry, so it never connected arrests that happened after the. After the fact, unless you went back in. So it was a lot different. And then even with Espo never looked to hurt anybody. He'd get annoyed with you when you, number one, tried to bullshit him and he knew you were bullshitting him, right? But I was good at it because I always had the adage, if you can't dazzle them with your brilliance, you baffle them with your bullshit. And I was a good bullshit artist, But you have to still have a baseline of knowledge in order to get away with that. If you were just outright lying and he caught you, you were done. And so be it. You shouldn't, like we talked earlier. Don't try to bullshit your way through it and lie through it. You got to jump on the sword. You jump on the sword. But he got annoyed when people weren't working together, when the squad wasn't in lockstep with the commanding officer, when the squad wasn't working together with the OCCB, the Organized Crime Control Bureau units, narcotics, gang, all of that stuff. So Espo got annoyed at that stuff where Anamone just seemed to have gotten annoyed. But again, CompStat changed the job.
To me, in my opinion on that question, not a comparison. It was a much more vicious era in CompStat under Anamone and Jack Maple. If you remember in when I first started talking, I told you I got that CompStat award in 1995. That was that administration.
Yeah.
And at that, I told you some crazy shit happened at that one that I was leaving out. And I'm going to be honest with you, the deputy inspector from the 8-4 precinct got fired at that one, fired from the job. He was asked to resign. Like, that's how crazy CompStat was back then.
Yeah.
So great question, but easy to answer.
Yeah. Timmy Acosta, I think you know Timmy also.
Yeah, Timmy works for me at 3SI.
Oh, does he really?
Yeah, Timmy's first grade detective.
Yeah.
and he covers the whole East Coast of the United States for 3SI. Fantastic guy.
Good guy. I got to know Timmy when I was a sergeant in the 7-8 precinct, and he was in the hate crimes task force. I'm almost positive this is where we met, and we had this ninja assailant that was attacking people in Flushing Meadows, Corona. No, not in Flushing Meadows, in Prospect Park on the midnights, hitting the gay community. And we had this task force. We'd go out every night. And I got to know Timmy on a personal level also. And actually, his wife worked up in Espo's office and was able to hook me up when I became lieutenant, and his wife got me to transit. So I just totally blew up my hook. But it just also proves that your hook doesn't have to be a 3-star chief. It could be a detective in the right position to do the right thing. So
look, Timmy's a solid dude, and he's asking us our opinions on how much technology changed law enforcement. You pretty much answered that in your last statement, comparing Adamone CompStat to Espo CompStat. But even moving on further, facial recognition was an absolute game changer in law enforcement. The leads that were produced there. The domain awareness system, I thought, was a game changer. Link analysis tools to be able to take databases, huge monster databases from disparate database things, and finding a connection in there. Like, how do Ron and Joe know each other? And Joe got arrested for domestic violence back in 1993, and he got one phone call. The number he called was the same number that Ron put on an aided report when he fell down the step. You know what I'm saying? Like, dude, a detective's never finding that connection. The technology will literally just sort through all of that data and find all of that shit. It's pretty incredible, man.
It is. It's amazing the difference in technology in today. And like, just to bring it back to CompStat. We talk about Animal, and then we talk about the Espo days, and now you talk about today, where when we used to go up to CompStat in the beginning, you could get away with certain things because they didn't have all the answers, because everything wasn't integrated. Whereas now, we're all working on the same databases. We all have access. They've actually, the Chief of Crime Control Strategy or Deputy Commissioner Operations, whatever it was at the time, they opened that up where it's like, we shouldn't be the only ones to have this information. We have to open it up. And even with Cognos, remember how hard it was to get a Cognos code because they didn't want to pay for the permissions? It was ridiculous, But everybody having that ability to be in the same plane and to have access to that information, it changed policing. It really did. And like you're talking about stuff way over my head, way over my understanding, and I appreciate it. I love listening to it and hearing how it's progressing in policing. And, there's always going to be legal barriers that you're up against. And we're going to, like I said, with the GPSs, right? We did it until it was challenged, it changed, and you had to pivot. And that's the way it's always going to be.
I mean, just beyond, just a great question, Timmy. Thanks for asking it.
Appreciate you, brother. Samara Cohen, did you ever work with Phil Pulaski?
No.
I did.
I did not. Yeah.
I didn't work for Phil Pulaski. I worked with Phil Pulaski. Again, brings me back to my blast days. He was the Deputy Commissioner of Operations, and the blast team, which is the burglary, larceny, apprehension, and suppression team, which was going out there doing those things like Joe talked about in the case that he had, where my guys would go out and follow burglars and break down burglars and doing phenomenal police work. And I had the opportunity on not one, but two occasions, and I think I'm probably the only person who was ever put up at the podium to speak about what the unit was doing and how it was so successful. Who gets to go up to the podium and talk about the great job that the men and women of that unit are doing and the successes? And twice I was put up to the podium for that reason, to talk about cases and talk about how we were getting it done and to get the word out that we're available to other people. And as I was leaving the unit, it began to go citywide. Mike Amiri is the one that brought it to citywide. It morphed into, you mentioned you were briefly the CO of Grand Larceny, or the XO of Grand Larceny Division. The blast team is what morphed into the Grand Larceny Division, actually. That came from the blasts. So Phil Pulaski was a big fan of our unit because you couldn't deny the work that was getting done.
No
I had
way.
From
You
Espo
guys
and
were
Mike
unbelievable,
Quinn,
man.
Yeah, from Espo and Mike Quinn, we had an unlimited overtime budget. So if we were up on a case, all I had to do was every week give a breakdown of what we were doing, because nowhere on this job did you get a better bang for your buck than paying my guys to do overtime, because we were breaking down legitimate burglary crews. So it was phenomenal. So he said, one day he came, he goes, Ron, I want to work out of your office one day. He lived in Queens. I want to work out of your office. I just want to be with the men and women. I want to talk to them. I want to thank them. He came in. He was so gracious. And you hear these horror stories about Phil Pulaski, working for Phil Pulaski. I never met that Phil Pulaski. I never worked for him directly, so I can't say. But he was so gracious. He said, listen, come up with a wish list. Anything that you think you could use to make your job easier. And we sat around for a week coming up with things that we never imagined we would get. We got every single thing that we asked for, including a surveillance auto, which was a Nissan, and in the headrest we had a DVR camera. So we parked the car on blocks of suspected burglars to be able to track their movements and stuff. It was great. So yeah, that's my experience with Phil Pulaski, and I'm not ashamed to say, I'm still in contact with him. I spoke to him a few weeks ago when just before the new year, when he was appointed to his new position, to congratulate him.
Yeah, and I never worked with him, so I'm going to be short on this one. Never worked with him. I heard a lot of gripes about him. Never experienced it firsthand. And I do run into Phil every now and again. In the private sector circuit, I'm a member of the International Association of Chiefs of Police. I'm on a couple of committees there. He's on a committee. So you'd be surprised who you run into. And he's super polite to me. I'm polite back. I have no reason to not be polite to him. So I have nothing positive or negative to say about him.
All right, Delray, another quick question, because we got to wind up. We just hit the 3-hour mark. Also during the show, we just hit our 92,000 followers for the Finest Unfiltered network. So it's a good achievement. We're getting so close to that 100,000 mark. And it was like yesterday that we hit the 60,000. So we appreciate all the follows. We appreciate all the subscribers. Hit that like, share, and subscribe. Keep that algorithm going. I think after we hit the 100,000, I think the algorithm is going to take us up and get our content out to more people. So Delray says, do you think the merge of Transit and Housing Authority Police in '95 was a good decision by Giuliani? Let's be quick on this.
Yeah, I don't. That kind of happened when you and I were new on the job. So I never really experienced a job before that. And I think that question, depending on who you ask, if you ask a housing or transit guy, they're going to say it was the worst thing that ever happened.
They're going to say what Samara says, hostile takeover.
Yeah. They're going to say it's the worst thing that ever happened. I guess they lost their identity in a way. For us, I look at it as we picked up some really talented and good people. And so for me, I'm a little selfish, man. I some really, really good contacts I met that way that I may not have ever met. So I'm a fan.
Listen, I'm a fan too. I think, again, like I talk about with the computer integration, I think the integration of all the departments and the continuity and the availability of all the information to work, seamlessly, it was the right idea. And then our last question, I don't think we have any more. The last question from Sleepy Joe, another avid follower and supporter of the show and the network. We appreciate you. Ron, what happens after a supervisor requests a time check? They get called every kind of motherfucker in the world. It's basically what you're doing is you're putting everybody on notice to stop the nonsense when there's radio chatter. That, you know, you ask for a time check because you're basically putting a timestamp on the radio transmissions, because normally it's going on because of unauthorized radio transmissions and chatter and things like that. I've done it actually to a dispatcher who was getting silly, you know, and then called Richie Napolitano, who was the CO of communications, and he listened to the tapes and actually pulled the dispatcher. But what's your?
I don't have anything on that. I don't think I've ever done it, quite honestly.
He's basically, it was, you know, it was a half-assed question.
Yeah, you know? I don't think I've ever done it. I never put much thought into that.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, I appreciate you doing that with us again.
Yeah.
I appreciate you coming on, Joe. I consider you a friend. Appreciate, you know, sharing your life story, sharing your career in the NYPD, and helping us to understand life after the NYPD, and the fact that you're still out there, still being a positive member of the law enforcement community, doing what you do. And hopefully, you know, it keeps going, and it keeps going out there, and you know, people see what the benefits of the law enforcement and private sector, again, joining together and working together for the betterment of the public and the community, which is what it's all about. So I'm going to give you the final word, and then I'm going to tease the rest of the shows for the rest of the week on the network.
No, I'm just going to thank you once again. The reflection into my life and my career on the police department was needed and overdue. You know, just my philosophy is to always look forward, but it's nice to kind of be reminded of some of the great things that happened in the past. So I thank you for that. And I know there's always a typical question of, would you do it again? And it's a split question.
So there's two parts to that, Joe. Let me give you the two parts. And John and Eric are the ones that started this. The first question is, you take, you know, how old were you when you got on the job, Joe?
I was 23.
23-year-old Joe Courtesis. And with everything that you know, and you already answered this, but I'll give it to you. Everything, you know, that you know and you love, and that you've experienced good, bad, and indifferent on this job, would you, as a 23-year-old, you know, Joe Courtesis, do it all over again?
So there's no doubt in my mind. Take me back to 1993 and what I don't know what I know now. And 100% I come on this job. There's not even a question. The only other thing I would say is, if I was 23 years old right now.
That's the second question.
Yeah.
That's the second question. So the second question is, if your 23-year-old self now, would you come on to today's job the way the atmosphere of policing today, the atmosphere of the politics, and everything else that you see out there, would you come on the job today as opposed to 1993?
I think that's a pretty strong no. And probably for reasons that you may not even realize. You know, back in 1993, there wasn't easy ways to make money. You know what I'm saying? They're really, like, you could do anything and make money, dude. You could be a social media influencer and make money. You could take your car and fucking Uber people around and make money. There's no excuse nowadays for not being able to make money and support your family. So when, remember, I came on the job because I needed a job that was secure, and I wanted to bring myself somewhere. So my benefits. I would probably go with a strong no. And quite frankly, what I know now, I'm not built to be videotaped everything I'm doing. I'm just not.
We didn't get into that.
I'm being dead honest with you. I'm not a criminal. I'm not a bad guy, but I would have been fired in 11 days if people had phone cameras when I came on. No doubt in my mind, I would have been fired because I don't, in my mind, I don't think I was doing anything wrong, but on that camera, it didn't look too good.
Yeah. And CCRB is not what it was then
No.
as it is now. It's not. It's totally weaponized against the NYPD now and politicized. So yeah, great answers, honest and open. There's only been 2 people that have said they would. Tommy Joyce is one of them. But listen, any final words of advice, words of wisdom to the young executives, since we're the executive perspective, that are coming up today?
One final word, seriously. When you get to a point where you value yourself more than the job values you, that's the cue, my friend. That's the cue to go. And because take that self-value and apply it somewhere else. You're going to be successful. Apply it somewhere else. If the job does not see your value, dude, don't try to make a girl love you that don't love you, bro. You know what I'm saying? It's just not going to happen.
All right, we had one super chat today. A friend of yours, 516 Diecast, a fronty. Long live the 8-3, a fronty, and he says he's proud of you, brother.
He's an 8-3 legend, man.
Thank you. Thank you for the $1.99. We appreciate it. And so moving forward for the rest of the week, and just hanging there with me, Joe, for a minute. Mm-hmm. Oh, I gotta. So Friday, we'll have John, Eric, and Marlon back for the roundtable. They'll be talking about whatever's new and topical in the news cycle and what's going on in the police cycle. So they'll be back on Friday morning, 08:05 for that. Then they'll be back again on Monday for their regular show. And Tuesday night, let me bring that up. Sorry. Because I texted Tommy. The 10-4 Tavern will be back 7:05 p.m. with Tom Joyce and Pete Fuselli. They're going to have Michael Hughes. He's the executive director for the Federal Law Enforcement Officers Association. He's a former CEO and director of Interpol for 4 years and a senior DOJ international advisor. He's retired 27-year U.S. Marshal, Senior Executive Security Operations. So that's going to be another great show. Go back and watch last night's show, another great show with retired detectives and FBI agents on the show. Great show. They bring in a vast pool of experts, law enforcement executives and detectives and all ranks that have been involved in some serious cases, all notoriety, and they bring it to you and you hear it from the first-hand person. So great show. Go back and watch their show. And then next Wednesday, Rob will be back with me on the Executive Perspective, Wednesday at 5:05 p.m. So until then, Joe, again, thank you very much for joining us. Rob, safe travels. I hope you got where you were going safely. And we'll be back together next week. Until then, have a great weekend. Be careful with this snowstorm that's coming up. And we'll see you next week. Until then, be safe. Thank you, everybody.
Take care.